Well, yes. Boom, boom. Okay. Gavel, gavel. We called our meeting to order. And if I can have Carrie do the roll call, please.
All right. Commissioner Bruce Trimber.
Present.
Commissioner Mary Box-Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Josh Simpson.
Present.
Commissioner Jesse Solomon.
Here.
Commissioner Evan Goodwin.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Lavecchio. And Commissioner Carrie Schmelter.
So
Michael
with
Lavecchio has just joined Zoom, so give me just a moment.
Okay, so he is coming. So, but we still have a quorum, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And he's joining.
So actually, that's good that we have one extra because it sounds like someone has to recuse himself.
Yes.
So with the one that's on, that we're in good shape. Thank you for
Michael, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
All right. The only person absent is Carrie.
Very good. Thank you. And let's see. So when we're doing these Zoom meetings, it's best, I guess, if you want to talk, just kind of say, hi, this is Bruce, or this is Mary, or this is Jesse, or something like that, so that we could have it recorded that you're stating something. It's a little harder sometimes to understand that. So the world of Zoom is back, unfortunately, or fortunately, but we're still able to conduct our meetings. So there we go. So notice regarding adjournment, the Historic Preservation Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or special meeting date as determined by the commission members. And notice regarding public comments, we still need to read this. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman, and in speaking, avoid disrespect to the commission staff or other members of the meeting. State your name and address when speaking, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes. So I guess right now we don't have any public comments or people, but if that does happen, Katie, how would we handle that in this manner, since we're not Facebooking? I'm just kind of...
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is, we'll handle it the same way as we do in a normal meeting. However, because we did have a little bit of a brief turnaround between a regularly scheduled meeting and the one that is now virtual, if we receive a comment that is public comment for the items on the agenda, but in the meantime, we will make sure that they have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And Katie, I believe you're going to do, this is, we're just talking about the roll call, and I just wanted to welcome Evan. We have a new member that's on board. And I'm not sure it's going to be on the right agenda item, but I just thought everyone should know that we have a new member named Evan Goodman, I believe. Is that correct? Or Goodwin?
Yes. Welcome, Evan. We're sorry that your first meeting is virtual, but we're excited to have you on the commission.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Great. Next is the adoption of the agenda as written. Could I get a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Yeah,
So
this is Jesse. Oh, sorry. This is Jesse. I'd like to make a motion for adoption of the agenda.
And I'm looking for a second.
This is Josh. Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Any discussions? If not, all in favor? Probably best if instead of raising our hand, we just say Bruce in favor and kind of go down the list, just because it is somewhat confusing sometimes in this Zoom world. So if we could kind of follow that pattern. So Bruce, yes.
Evan,
Jesse,
yes.
yes.
Mary, yes.
Mike, yes.
So it looks like we're unanimous on that. Is that correct? Very good. Next is adoption of minutes from our previous meeting of February 2nd. I need a motion for adoption of minutes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes, Mary.
And Mary, thank you. And I need a second, please.
Josh, second.
Thank you. Any discussions? With no discussions, Bruce, in favor, aye.
Jesse, aye.
Evan, aye.
Mary, I.
Mike, aye.
And that looks like we're unanimous. Correct, Carrie?
Mhm.
Thank you. I'm going to kind of refer back and forth if something, this is somewhat, so it's just helpful so that we have it all.
Right. Actually, Evan, you weren't there for the February meeting, so you can't vote for those minutes.
Very good.
But we
yes.
still have it unanimous otherwise.
Thank you for pointing that out, Carrie. That is correct. If you don't attend the meetings, which we had a problem previously, that you're unable to vote to adopt minutes. So thanks for pointing that out, Carrie. As we spoke, no public comments. So it looks like we're into our agenda, and we have somewhat of a packed agenda today. So hopefully we could kind of walk through these fairly quickly and do the proper thing. So the first item, I believe, is Katie, and you're up.
Yes, so this first item is in old business. Carrie, if you want.
Could I ask, do we have our applicant in the waiting room, or are they welcomed in, or how are we going to do this?
Yes, I'll have Carrie let them in as we go. I have an idea of who's going to be here for each one, so I can hopefully help guide who comes into the main room rather than the waiting room. So Jesse, Jason and
James is here.
James are potentially our applicants on this one.
And I guess, Katie, if we could ask them just to announce their entry into our meeting with their names so that we know that they're here. Or Carrie, if you could just kind of remind them of that, please. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. So Katie, it looks like you're up, and we're looking at some old business.
Perfect. And James Atkins is here on behalf of the applicant. James, if you just could say hello so we can make sure that your speaker and everything is working.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. So this is James Atkins with Court Atkins Architects. This is a request. It is old business because this is an item that has been approved in the past. There is an amendment that is before you tonight to allow for a change under the stairs of the building, which is identified as 54 Bridge Street. This is the building as part of the 71 Calhoun Street development, or the bridge project, depending on how far you are in learning the name of the project so far. It is the one that faces Bridge Street. So there's the one that faces Bridge Street, then you've got the corner building, and then there's one that faces Calhoun Street. This is the Bridge Street one. So this is the side that is closest to the Hayward House. And they are proposing to modify the area under the stairwell for the to allow for the electric panel to be there. Because of building code, there has to be fire rating that's installed with this. An amendment for section 318 of the Unified Development Ordinance can be approved at a staff level by the UDO administrator, as long as it meets the specific regulations of the Unified Development Ordinance and it does not substantially deviate from the original approval by the Historic Preservation Commission. So it is a fairly minor request. However, because the request includes the addition of a garden wall or a service wall that is a portion of the building, but it is not a portion of the building, like enclosed portion of the building, it exceeds the 6-foot height that would be permitted for a service yard or a service yard or a fence that would be proposed. So if you look at this elevation here, and I've got just the plans pulled up on my screen here to make it as easy as possible, the electric panel is approximately in this location here, and I will just stamp it with a star. 3 stars. So this is where the electric panel is. The underside of this stair, in order to meet fire code, has to be rated, as well as the back of the stair for 10 feet from the location of this. So what they're proposing is behind this column here, and I'll show you on the side view in just a minute, but this column here would have the 6-foot service fence, and then behind this column here would be the wall that exceeds the 6 feet, because it has to protect the back of this staircase. And then the underside of the balcony, they are proposing to add a essentially ceiling under there that is hardy material that's fire rated so that there is the ability to have it protected from that electric panel.
So visibility, help me understand this. If I'm looking at this perspective wise, it looks like the wall is back there, but the panel is actually going to be mounted. I don't know if I'm off on the perspective or what, but the panel is going to be there and it's going to be visible from the street, or is it going to be sheltered with a?
So the panel is here. So if you were driving down Bridge Street, you would be driving where my mouse is currently over here.
Yes.
Okay. This sits with bushes along this area here.
Okay.
And so if you're walking down the sidewalk and you turned 90 degrees to look between the buildings, you would see the 6-foot fence and then the 12-foot-ish
because this is not on the Hayward side, is it?
It is.
Or it is. So this is facing Hayward House.
Yes. Well, it's facing the bushes because it is towards the front of it. So the Hayward House actually sits about here. It's not perfectly aligned with it.
Okay.
But yes, it's that direction, facing Town Hall, facing the Hayward House, facing Pritchard Street, etc.
Thank you.
So if you look at this here, you've zoomed in under that porch. Here's the upstairs door. The staircase comes down this side. This is the approximate location of that electric panel. And again, the wall would be here. The 6-foot service fence would be here. So, whoops. Looking at it as you were standing on the sidewalk in front of the building, turned 90 degrees, you would see this fence here, which is the 6 feet, and then beyond it would be this hardy wall.
So the reason this is being presented to us is it has it is a substantial difference from what we approved, and in order to move forward, that's what the HPC has to determine if it's approvable.
So the HPC is determining whether or not it is a substantial deviation. However, staff finds that it is not a substantial deviation, but it does not meet the ordinance specifically because it is exceeding that 6 feet in height. However, with the panel behind it, this is the least.
It's under the stair, basically, isn't it?
The least substantial change. Yes, it's under the stair. So what you'd be looking at if this wall wasn't here would be the back of the stairs.
Can you scroll back up to that the picture of the entire thing? So where is the panel on that picture?
The panel would be right here.
Is it where that invisible line is, in a sense? With this,
so it's not reflected on this picture at all.
No.
It's hard to tell then.
On the one below it, the partial elevation, it's shown as a square.
Yeah, so that's.
Sorry.
Well, it's under the stair, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
But we don't have a picture of what it would look like.
But looking at it, go back up, the drawing. It's actually to the very right. If I'm looking at the stairway there, it's actually to the right of that next. Where could I? No, to the right.
No, it's right.
This is where the wall would be behind, but you'd be looking at the thin end of the wall here, but you won't see it because it's behind this column. And behind this column is where the fence is. So you can actually see, I'm not sure that really is a shadow line from the fence, but it is. Okay, I was gonna say, you can see what would be the shadow line from that fence. Bruce.
It's right there, isn't it?
Yes, the wall.
The wall is.
The wall is there.
Or the full height screen or whatever we want to call it. So, Katie, can I just jump in for a quick history?
Up to Bruce, but yes.
The previous approval, which was reviewed by everybody, this is where the service meters were going to go. So that's how we proceeded. And working with the town and Dominion, the service meter access became a challenge all around. And so there was a lot of meetings with town staff and Dominion Energy of how we can put the meters in and then properly screen them. And so we got through all that and got the meters installed. And when they went for their inspection, they said, well, you've got to have the ceiling of the porch and the area between the meter and the stair need to have a 1 hour rating, which was news to us. And so we looked at a variety of options. We started by actually doing a full height party wall on both sides, but felt like we should keep it pretty minimal. So we ended up raising the service height screen wall on the left side column to 6 feet, which is allowed just to ensure that we screen the meters from the street. So when you're walking down Bridge Street, you can't look through there and see the meters. And then on the right side column is where we introduced the 1 hour rated wall. And we thought that we would just do a hardy plank finish, so it appeared like it was part of the structure. And then we're just redetailed the ceiling to add a 1 hour rating kind of wedged in between the decking and the top there to disguise it. So that really is minimal. But because that kind of 1 hour screen wall goes from ground to the underside of the porch, and talking to Katie and Kevin, thought that we should come back and show you all that so that when the final kind of walk around happens, there's no surprises and we avoid the snafu that we had a couple years ago on another project with a shutter. So that's why we're here. We're trying to come up with the minimal impact where we could get the building safety and energy company happy with the 1 hour ratings to protect the stair, but not turn this into a huge design exercise. So we raised the louver panel facing Bridge Street, and we introduced a hardy wall on the backside, which I think when it gets all painted out, you're never really going to realize it's there. And it also is behind a significant amount of landscape screening, so you really don't see it at all. And then a subtle thing that I'm sure Katie was going to get to, and it's circled on that elevation. If you could go back to that side elevation, please, Katie. In the upper right here, you'll see a window that's clouded. So that window was there in the original approval. And then we came back for an amendment to remove the window, but the window was installed. So we figured we might as well put that window back in and make sure you all were okay with adding that window back from the original approval, just so, again, clear up any confusion when the final review comes along. So sorry, it appears very complicated, but our goal was to provide a life safety requirement that what came about after the meter was installed. We did explore some options to move the meter, but honestly, the other option was to put it on the other side of the building, which is a public thoroughfare and not screened with all the landscaping and everything. So we felt like we should update the louver and add the 1 hour wall and get it in front of you all to make sure we're okay, or if you had another idea to accomplish the code requirement.
We still don't have a view of what it would look like completed.
They're
Essentially
below
this.
here. So if you widen out a little bit, Katie, please. So the left elevation is what it's going to look like when you're standing on Bridge Street looking at it. And again, you're looking at a hardy wall instead of the back of the stairs. And then
So that's not in the front of the steps, that's in the back of the steps. And like you said, it's actually hiding the stairway. And then you have a fence that's towards the other side, and that's the standard allowed fence, if I understand correct.
exactly. If you look at the little partial floor plan below, might help a little bit.
So Mary, I think what you're asking is what that grayed out area looks like. It's they're electric meters, so they are gray boxes or tan boxes that sit about 6 inches off the wall, similar to what you have on your home, but more because it's a
Massive.
it's a bigger building. So it's not a residential, well, it's got residential, but it's not just the residential single meter that's like 1 foot by 2 feet. It's larger than that, but it still sits mostly flush with the wall with just those boxes sticking out of it, which is why the screening is required.
But that we're not really approving the location of the boxes because that was approved already. All we're doing is approving the screening of what the boxes are, and that's all at this point. So
I just wanted to get I just was looking, I mean, like with the landscaping and all of it completed, what it would look like. I mean,
So I don't know if this one's got the landscape plan in it.
I will, or just to chime in, like overcomplicate things. I guess, can I just ask the question? I mean, I can't see the site plan, but you really won't see that through Bridge Street, like as you approach. I guess my question is, we've got the louvered screen fence panel on the elevation that faces Bridge Street, but essentially it's just open underneath the stairs for that elevation that faces the Hayward Street. You're not, as you drive down Bridge Street, you wouldn't see all of those service meters.
With the raising up the left side service to 6 feet, where it was previously 4, the top of that service bank is about 6 feet. And so with
Gotcha.
raising that up and the existing dense trees and bushes that are there, you won't see these meters.
we don't have a mock-up of that. So when I'm driving down Bridge Street, I will see that.
You'll see the louvered screen, the surface yard, which is what was originally approved. We're just raising it from 4 feet to 6 feet.
And then I've got the original approved. Oh,
So essentially what we're doing is it was approved.
this is how it was originally approved right here,
The location of the panel
4 feet.
was originally in this location.
Yes. You can see on the floor plan.
So this is just a matter of redesigning the shielding for the panels.
Redesigning the shielding and then satisfying the power company and the building inspections department of getting some fire protection for the stair. In case if I guess the meter catches fire, people can get out and the stair won't catch on fire.
Okay. Do we have any comments from any other commissioners?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just real quick,
Yes.
the memo that was in your packets, and then again, if anyone is following along at home, the full packet is available on the town website under the agenda center. You can click either the PDF or the HTML version of it and see the entire staff report with all of the attachments. That was just my disclaimer real quick because the whole packet isn't presented on the screen before you tonight. But in that packet that y'all have, these are the items that they are requesting. The ceiling under the porch on the east elevation, that is the, it's under here, but it is about 6 inches. It just makes this trim board wider than it currently is. It should not be something that is visible or substantially changes what this elevation looks like. This is what it will look like right here. To do that, the 3-piece hardy trim that covers the porch, that's added to the same. So that's part of that ceiling underneath. So here's this part and then this part to block it so that you don't see a gap between the two. The window was on the original approval, but it was removed in Amendment 2. And that's on the second floor elevation. So that's this window here. The 6-foot fence is the louvered fence that is on the south elevation. So that is this portion right here.
6-foot fence, yeah.
Yes, and that one, town staff has no issue with that changing to 6 feet. It would have been approved at staff level had it been those 4 items there.
So again,
because it does
Katie,
not substantially deviate and it meets the code.
These 4 items would have been approved by staff because of the fact that there really is no complete deviation. The only one that we're looking at is for number 5.
Right, and staff doesn't find that it substantially deviates. The change is that because it does not meet the ordinance specifically, it cannot be approved at a staff level. So what they have proposed is, here's the original, what it looks like, the original approval. I keep scrolling different pages here. So staff has found that it does not substantially deviate from this design, the building as an overall. Obviously, if you say, well, does this one tiny square here deviate? Perhaps, but it is not on the front elevation, it's on a side elevation. It is a material that is still permitted.
Hey, and that was removed in the First Amendment, the currently approved plans. So what we're looking at was the originally approved, and then we went in.
Right, so that was what was originally approved by the HPC, which is what the determination of if it substantially deviates is the original approval by the HPC. Staff has approved 2 amendments since the original approval, which did not substantially deviate. It looks like a lot of clouding here because it's the width of a few windows needed to be brought into compliance for egress and fire rating, but they are essentially the same windows here. So while there's a lot of cloud, it isn't that the design has changed much from the original. It's just the width changed by a few inches. And at the time of the Second Amendment, that panel right there was removed, but this continued to be there. Now what they're proposing is, I've lost it now. Here it is. Too many.
That one picture you just showed had the window
Here we go.
eliminated, and now it's coming back in. Okay.
Yes, so changing it, this fence still remains. That is what, so Amendment 2, this was right here. So you still got those 3 panels, but here will be the wall and here will be the 6-foot fence wall. So this being changed to this, which the line weight is heavier on this one. So if you look at it more closely, you can see it is not changing anything except for this space here and adding that window back, which
we wouldn't be here if we could just keep it a louvered 6-foot wall or 6-foot fence, but the building department is requiring a 1-hour separation to protect the stairs. So we try to disguise that fire protection with a hardy plank wall in between the columns, and that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
And I think honestly it hides the backside of the stairs and everything too, so you really won't see this. It won't be a
that's architecturally, that does hide the back of the stairs, which in a sense adds to a architectural positive element rather than a negative element. That's my opinion.
Josh here. James, there's only 2, maybe one aesthetic and one just long-term durability questions that I have. The first one, aesthetically, I would consider putting that entire wall on the front as well, because having that lower 6-foot louvered wall, we're still going to be able to see over top of that 6-foot wall and see that full height wall in the back. And I think that just having those as both full height walls might feel a little bit more natural when it's all said and done.
I would agree. That was our originally proposed option in discussions, and then just kind of working through conversations, it became this hybrid. But we would be completely open to actually doing both sides full height and kind of painting them the trim color of the columns and just make it all go away.
I think that would provide symmetry. We're asking for an exception. My suggestion is to try to find symmetry in this. The panels have to be covered. The area has to be protected to meet the fire code. So that's one aesthetic suggestion. The other, from a durability standpoint, in the cut through detail that shows the location of the waterproofing membrane, it's on top of a packed down ceiling. I would suggest that waterproofing membrane be put on top of the landing, and furring strips be placed to support the decking so that you can seal the underside of that landing in its entirety and not have to worry about, right now the oak tendrils are falling like crazy, those getting trapped in that system. And over time, that just being a maintenance item that's inaccessible and creating water issues that lead to deterioration and unsightliness and maintenance.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. However, being that it's already built and that it's lined up with the adjacent front porch, we had some aesthetic concerns, and not to get overly complicated about, bringing that in, and all of a sudden the porches have different details and looking different. But we've talked about getting the deck boards on the top, to be a tight joint or a tongue and groove, and just ensure that we do the best that we can with what we have. So we did look at that. It just became a downstream list of other challenges that we were confronted with. So we felt like this, while maybe not the perfect solution, got us to where we needed from a fire protection standpoint, and also maintaining some of the original approval. So, but I do appreciate the feedback on that.
But what I understand, Josh, brings up a very valid point, is the water, the oak, everything's going to collect on this wood, and then that wood's just going to rot over. Even though it would be pressure treated, it's still going to rot in 5 years. Whereas if you put the membrane on the top, you're protecting that. And then, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, all the decks are pressure treated wood. I mean, that was originally approved by all the decks.
Oh, I know that, but I'm saying that the collection point of this roof area is going to be a major possible issue if you didn't have the membrane on top.
Josh again here. James, is the decking installed? Has the decking been installed on top of the frame landing?
Decking installed, the flashing and the door jambs have been installed. It all lines up with the adjacent porch on the front. We looked at that, kind of even rebuilding the whole thing. The stairs are there, the roof is there, the roof is installed. There were just a lot of, so I'm talking with Andy here at our office, our construction administrator, and kind of working through those details. And we'll be on site when they pull this all together. So the water maintenance is certainly something that we wanted to look at, as well as achieving the fire rating for the egress path. So I think if we get just try to work through all of that and make sure that we have and maybe that joint underneath the beam gets a little wider, so we can get up in there and ensure the little acorns and things don't stop it up. And with the roof and everything, we would hope that the water that would be getting down in there would be minimal.
I would just question too, James, though, as a commercial structure, if that gap though isn't going to create a conflict for the fire rating.
Because the meters are up against the wall.
You got the setback.
They signed off on this. We met with the inspector on site and walked through all the details. We also looked at like some third-party like cabinets and things that could get painted that would be rated and put on there. But again, I think an architectural solution that gets integrated is probably better than making the meters even more large and distinguished.
So, I've expressed two things. One, aesthetic. I think that front elevation would benefit by, instead of having that 6 foot high fence, that be extended up to match the fence that's being placed to block the set of stairs. And I would also just ask that, as it's being constructed, it be done so in a manner that does allow for anything, debris, whatnot, be able to be cleaned out of that gap. And, aside from that, I don't have anything else to add.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Are we at a point where a possible motion can be made? And Josh, since you pointed those out, is there anyone else that would like to present a motion? Can I hear a motion from someone in the committee?
I move that, I would like to make a motion that the proposal be approved on the contingency that the front wall, that 6-foot lattice wall, be changed to match the new rear wall being extended to the underside of the landing so that they are equally built, and consideration be given to maintenance in accessing the landing system, landing waterproofing.
Thank you. Carrie, do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second on that?
This is Jesse. I second the motion.
Do we have any further discussions? If not, Bruce Trember in favor, aye.
Mike, aye. Sorry, Mike, aye.
Mary, I.
Jesse, aye.
Is that, I'm not tracking, Carrie, I apologize.
Okay.
Is there anyone else remaining?
Evan?
We got.
Sorry,
I've got-
Yeah, Evan,
Okay.
Yeah.
I have 6.
6,
Okay.
okay, so that's unanimous, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous
Motion passed.
and motion passed as presented. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Great.
much. I'll
Thank you
see
so
you
much.
in a little bit.
See you in a bit.
Bye.
Okay, so on to item number 2. No, this is actually item number 1 of new business. And it looks like, Katie, you're up for this one. So this is now per our agenda, new business.
Katie, I'll admit Chad to the meeting now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Katie, this is Evan. Should I go ahead and recuse myself now before you start?
Yes. Evan Goodwin is recusing himself.
So what he's going to do is block
item.
his video and block in, so just kind of listen in and just turn your video off and mute yourself if you will, please.
Sure, will do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Chad, if you could introduce yourself just so we know you are in the meeting and your microphone works and everything.
Yeah, this is Chad McRory, and let me turn on this guy. We should be good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm just getting the slideshow pulled up here.
Now, this is a house that we approved about 3 years ago. Is that correct, Katie?
There, yes. So there's a structure that is already at this location. There was a small addition. I believe it was almost 4 years ago now. 4 years ago.
It's been a while. Yeah, Chad?
It has
you
been
know?
a minute.
It was about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
So this is, and I have to make you all a little bit smaller on my screen in order to be able to see the slides. So if you have something, please make sure you speak up so that I can hear you, because I may not be able to actually see all of you at the same time. So this is a certificate of appropriateness to allow the addition of approximately 385 square feet to the existing 1,800 square foot structure. It's a 2-story single-family residence located at 134 Bridge Street. That is here in the Neighborhood Conservation HD zoning district. It's that gold. So if you were to take Bridge Street from the office, which is off the screen here to the right, and drive all the way to where it turns to gravel, and then keep going until it ends in a driveway, There's actually one parcel here before you get back. There's an easement that runs to this triangle piece here, which is where 134 is. This is a picture of a portion of that structure. So you kind of have an idea there. And then you can see here, there's the OCRM critical line. This is where that reduced OCRM buffer sits, is through the middle of the existing structure. And then the grade area here is the addition that is proposed at the meeting tonight. So I've circled it here. This is the floor plan and then also the roof plan. So you've got, it's a 1-story addition. It is just a single room here with a bathroom and a closet. It ties with this small hyphen here. You can see it on the roof plan as well. From the front elevation, this is the elevation that actually faces the cove. This parcel, you actually access it from the rear. The front of the house faces the cove, but you can't see any of it from Bridge Street because it is accessed behind that. So just keep that in mind as you review this, that the elevations are labeled correctly. However, how you would approach this home is a little bit turned around because your car would actually pull up here behind the rear elevation. So this is what you would see if you pulled in the driveway, but this is what fronts the cove and this is the front of the structure.
And it's an interesting lot because really the only way you can see the front of the house is if you're on Lisa Sulka's property across the cove.
Or a kayak at a king tide.
Kayak at a king tide, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of curious, yes. Okay.
And then this is the side elevation here. So there are only, because it's plural, 3 elevations to this because it is connecting to the house on the last elevation. Because you won't ever see that side unless you're standing in their living room, and then you won't see it because there won't be a wall there. So this is the addition here, and I'll take you back one more time. Just this little guy here, the chimney exists. It's just tying into that existing structure here.
Chad, did we not approve a garage or something on this at one time?
There was a independent carriage house approved about 2 years ago. The house was...
Has that been abandoned? Or?
No, I have a permit in place. I'm waiting for the town of Bluffton to figure out what they're going to do with the sewer project.
Yes.
I cannot build it right now because it's sitting on a drain field if I were to build it.
So the as one of the capital improvement projects, there is a sewer that is going in on that site to attach to this structure, and they will tie in when that is able to happen. We've put it out to bid. And we are hoping that it happens here in the near future. They had to work on some redesigns because of some elements that were along the road there. So they are still working on getting sewer to this site. And when that happens, he does have a permit that's been pulled and is sitting, waiting for that to go in so that he can actually build that garage. That's beautiful.
With that being said, where is the location of that compared to this? I mean, how is it affecting the construction? I guess I was just kind of curious.
So it is, and Chad, correct me if I'm wrong here.
No, yeah, it's back. Yeah. So if you go back, right? Correct.
It's located in the back there. Okay.
It's correct. Yes.
All right. I thought for some reason another was towards the front, but it is towards the back. Okay.
It is towards the back. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I've included the wall sections here for you just so that you've got them, as well as some details that he has provided. I can go back to those if you'd like more detail. This is a certificate of appropriateness. So the HPC, as you typically do, consider the 8 review criteria, which are set forth in section 318 of our Unified Development Ordinance when assessing this, and can approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant if you find it does not meet those criteria. Staff has reviewed this application against those criteria for us and has found that it could meet those criteria with the single condition here that the closed shutters on the rear elevation be removed or be operable. The applicant has requested, and he is here to speak on behalf of the project tonight, obviously, as we've already seen here, has noted that the shutters that are here are very similar to those which are on the structure that currently exists. It is the rear of the structure and the windows will be framed out to meet this. So the applicant is requesting that the HPC allow a deviation from that standard because they would be operable shutters. It would just be a panel behind the operable shutter, essentially. And with this being the rear of the house on a parcel accessed by an easement that is back along the cove here, so it'd be on the elevation that is right here. They wanted to have some architectural fenestration there, but it's unable to happen with the way the floor plan lays out. So it would be a framed out, true windowless window, essentially.
And we have precedent of that already set in other locations other than this property.
There is some minimal precedent set for allowing it in the case that there are other shutters on the structure that it is furred out.
Okay, so it looks like we're looking for a motion for the
Unless there's any discussion, Bruce.
unless there's any discussion, but just unless there's any discussion on the rest of the project, because the rest of the project is meeting the criterion. This is the only thing that's not meeting it, so this has to be approved or discussed or a motion set. Correct, Katie?
That is all that staff has found. If you all see anything else, please let me know.
Thank you. Anyone? If not, I'm looking to see if someone wants to make a motion.
Mary, I'll make a motion to approve the request as submitted. With the, let me just clarify, with the specifically the shutters, since they are not and will not ever be visible to Bridge Street or to the elevation of a regular person on Bridge Street, and that there has been a precedent already set and established on this property. Is that okay?
Carrie, you have that?
Yep.
Very good. So therefore, we have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussions? Without discussion, I'm looking for a vote. Bruce Trimber, approve?
Jesse, aye.
Anyone else?
Mike, aye.
Mary and Josh.
Do we need
Josh?
to, if we make
Josh?
a motion, sorry. Mary, aye.
Josh, aye. Sorry, I was trying to get off mute.
Is that all, Carrie? Do we have
Yep.
all members?
We've got
So
everybody.
it looks like, so we have a unanimous on that?
We do.
And pass. Mary, go ahead and ask the question. This is, so we have that motion passed, and now we're into just a Mary discussion. Go
I
ahead.
just had a quick question for Katie or Carrie. If we make a motion or second a motion, do we still vote on the motion?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Would it be easier for everybody when we go to vote if I just call on you?
That would be a lot easier if you want to do that, because we haven't done that in the past, and I think that would be wonderful, Carrie. So thank you for offering that.
All right.
Thank you, Carrie. And then just again, for the record, Evan did recuse himself from this, so he did not vote on this because he is recused. However,
Now, unfortunately, did Evan go away? Because I don't see him here. So
No,
do you have
he's
to
here.
welcome back in? Okay.
yes. And Chad, I will follow up with you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Perfect.
So we can bring Evan back in.
Evan can come back, and Carrie, if you want to let Tim in
Okay.
from PDG Architects.
Is Chad leaving, or do I need to? Oh, never mind. He left.
He left.
Hey, Tim is coming in.
It's been a minute since we've done the Zoom thing, so we're all a little rusty here. So thanks for bearing with me as I switch
And we-
between
Yeah,
which screen I'm sharing.
all the recommendations and helpful hints is very much appreciative. So Carrie, Katie, and anyone else on this, if they have a suggestion.
And Tim, if you could just introduce yourself when you get in here so that I know that you are able to hear us and we can hear you? It looks like he's still trying to connect to audio, so it's working on it, it looks like, Tim.
Tim, are you there?
I'm there. Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Welcome to our HPC.
Thank you.
And Katie, you have it.
Perfect. And this is Tim with PDG Architects here on behalf of the applicant, or he is the applicant for this project. So this is a certificate of appropriateness to allow the addition of approximately 185 square feet to the existing one-story contributing resource of approximately 1,340 square feet located at 38 Lawrence Street in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. It is zoned Neighborhood Center HD. It seems that I did not put an existing conditions picture in here, so I will share one of those with you in just a few moments. But first, I will show you the beautiful drawings that Tim has provided for us. This is the proposed site plan. So if you are on Calhoun Street, this is the cute little pink and green and white building that you see. One second here, because
And it's a misleading address, isn't it? Because it really isn't on Lawrence, or is it on Lawrence? I was confused, but it is.
I had to read that a few times.
But it is a Lawrence address, correct, Tim?
It is 37 Calhoun Street.
I mean,
Which is-
Calhoun Street.
Yeah.
So it's a Calhoun Street. Okay, I'm sorry.
Calhoun and Lawton Street. Yeah.
Okay, so it's, yeah,
And I've actually, here we go.
but it's,
So this is the structure we were talking about here. I apologize that it didn't make it into my,
so, but it's known as 38 Lawrence Street for the
Yes.
applicant. So, but it's actually on Calhoun Street. That's where,
it is. So this whole parcel, if you look at the way the parcel lays out here, it fronts both Lawton and Calhoun Street. Is there Lawrence Street written in here?
But not Lawrence.
No, of course not.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Let me
Lawton.
start there, guys. I am very sorry.
anyway, I was just trying to figure it out, so.
I was looking at it earlier trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I am very sorry, y'all. This is, so Lawton Street runs here. This is Calhoun Street. The building we are discussing is the,
It's 38 Lawrence Street. Okay, that makes
Calhoun
sense.
it is a messy one because of how the parcel lays out, but also my inability to tell L names apart. So if your name is Larry, Lawrence, or
So
Laura, I may call you by the wrong name.
So Tim, we got that cleared up as mud, so we can continue on. Thanks.
I'm so sorry, y'all. So this is the structure we are looking at. This right here is the addition that they're proposing. And I will circle it for you just so you can see it real quick. Right there. So you can see what they are proposing. And then, now my screen won't move forward. Go. Here we go. So this is the floor and roof plan. So this is the front porch that you're seeing, along with the existing structure here, and then the proposed new bathroom towards the rear of the house here. It's currently operating as a commercial building. It was a residential structure at one time, and it's going back to be residential. So there is not a change of use development plan that has to go through because it's becoming a less dense use, and so it is going from commercial back to residential. This is the area which they're proposing. On the roof plan, you can see that they're widening this wing here. So rather than having another roof line to be more sympathetic to the existing structure, they're going to take this roof and raise it by just a few inches to be able to continue that roof over the structure that's being proposed. So you can see the existing left versus the new left. So it has gotten wider on this side from the rear of the structure. These double windows are going away, and you're adding the single windows here. So there's one plus the, it's actually a door here. And then on the right elevation, you are just seeing the rear here, which there's a, like, I want to call it a trellis over the porch. It's like a trellisy structure that they're just taking away. And then on the front elevation, you're seeing that the roof line has been raised by 1 foot. I think that says 4 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got your addition on the, I'm having to do this in my head backwards again. So this is the existing. They're opening up those shutters for the front. For the right side, you're seeing just the roof change here. For the, go back up. Left side, you see the wing widen, and from the rear elevation, you see the full effect of that additional space there being added. Does everybody understand what I've said now, since I started you off as being confused?
Yeah, it actually is eliminating some of the items that it's making the property look much better, I think, by doing some of these things.
I agree.
So I've included the wall section, and then they included the brickwork that they proposed as some of the flat work, as well as the railing that they're going to be upgrading here. This is their landscape plan. So again, you can see here's the bathroom addition, and then they're doing some just site work around it. So this patio does not currently exist, and they're doing some new plantings to clean up this area. And then this is the one-story residence that has a couple businesses in it fronting Bluffton Street. I have to always have one, guys. And so again, this is a certificate of appropriateness. So you have 3 opportunities. You can approve the application as submitted by the applicant. You can approve it with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant once you've taken into consideration those criteria, which are found in section 318 of our Unified Development Ordinance. Town staff found that with 2 small conditions, the application is in compliance with the criteria in that section and could be approved or approve the conditions. The first is just that there's a note on the landscape plan that they're going to be taking out a few other invasive species. However, there is also some bamboo along the rear property line, which is in this area here. That is an invasive species, and if it could be removed, that would be really great, since our ordinance does aim to eradicate invasive species as they are in our low country area, and bamboo does spread fairly quickly.
It is an existing plantings, is that correct? Michael, you may be able to chime in a little bit for us in regards to that, since this is your expertise.
I have no knowledge of bamboo whatsoever.
Jesse, I think it's
Not
you
Michael.
need to-
Yeah, Michael. I got the wrong person. Boy, that's okay. Hey, Michael. Sorry about that. I'm looking at.
No problem.
Hey, but you're there, so fantastic, Jesse. I'm
Just
sorry.
checking.
Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, it does make a big difference if it. I mean, all of that still holds true. If the it does make a big difference if it's a running or clumping variety of bamboo. So I don't know exactly what species it is, but yeah, I mean, if the applicant would be willing to do that, that would be nice. I don't know exactly what. I mean, it is in the ground, right? Like, it's not just in a pot.
Tim, is it in the ground or is it in a pot?
It's in the ground. There's no potted items here.
Okay. All right. I just thought, since we have Jesse as our landscape guru.
Mic on backup.
Yes. Cool.
And the other item is that determination on the appropriateness of the finished floor height, which is less than 3 feet above average adjacent sidewalk grade, but it matches the existing structure's finished floor height, needs to be made. Again, this is a structure that is a contributing resource. The finished floor height for all but 183 feet. 185 square feet has been set. So allowing this deviation, staff finds that it would be appropriate to do so in order to match the finished floor height of the existing structure, rather than have a weird step up inside the structure.
And we have done that numerous times before.
Yeah.
For that purpose. Yes. Okay. Any discussions on this project? Any comments? Any ideas to
And
improve
Mr. Chairman,
it?
if you want to make sure to open it up to Tim if he'd like to say anything on behalf of the project too.
That's right. Tim?
I think you guys got everything.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Yeah, the zooming thing is just help us out, you know. You gotta zoom. So now we now are into. Is there anyone that wants to create a motion that talks
Mr.
about
Chairman?
these two? Yes, please.
Josh here. Katie, can you just please confirm staff recommendations?
The two items. You have
VCs
them printed? Yes. Thank you.
Is that what
determined-
you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay.
I would like to make a motion that this submittal be approved per staff recommendations and accepting the existing structure, approving the finished floor height.
Carrie, do you have that?
Let me try that last part again. Accepting the proposed finished floor height of the addition, given the precedent set by the existing structure.
Is that clear, Carrie?
Perfect.
And Katie, that's good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Josh.
Yes, sir.
We're looking for a second on this.
Mary, I'll second it.
Thank you. Any open discussions on this?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding of the motion is that it is to approve the application as with the removal of the bamboo along the property line and the determination that the finished floor height is appropriate at less than 3 feet as it matches the existing contributing structure's finished floor grade. Do I understand that correctly?
Is that correct, Josh?
Yes, yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So again, I think we're into discussions. If there's any discussions further. Asking for a vote.
Carrie, if you want to go through roll.
All right. Bruce,
Approve, aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Evan.
Aye.
Looks like it's
Unanimous
approved.
vote.
Unanimous vote.
Perfect.
Approved with
Thank you so
motion.
much.
Thank you so much. And thank
Tim,
you.
I
Thank
will
you.
follow up with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Katie, it looks like, again, you're up once again.
Perfect.
We're on item number 3.
Sean Barbina is entering the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Boy, do I like live meetings much better, guys.
Me too. But we are making it work, and the thunder is
We are.
starting here.
Looks like we have Sean. And Sean, who are you with, please?
My wife, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Welcome to the HBC meeting. And Katie, it looks like you're on.
I got the PowerPoint up. Welcome, Sean and Kathy. They are the homeowner and the applicant on this application. And so they are here on behalf of the project on both portions. Tonight we have before us an application for a certificate of appropriateness to allow the construction of a new 1.5-story single-family residence of approximately 2,152 square feet to be located at 36 Wharf Street, which is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it is zoned Neighborhood General HD. This parcel is located right, and I don't think you get smaller here on the side, is located right here, well within the Neighborhood General HD zoning district. It has frontage on Wharf Street, and then it goes all the way through to the Girard Avenue side here. This is a picture of the site. I did take it from Google Earth, so I think it is from 2019, so it looks a little different. However, very similar to what you're seeing here on the screen. This is the proposed site plan. So you have the proposed residential structure located here, fronting Wharf Street. There is a manufactured home that is located towards the rear of the lot here, or the center of the lot, kind of located here. And then they've got a future carriage house, which is not part of this review, but they've cited it on there just to make sure that they have the appropriate amount of space should they decide to move forward with the carriage house structure in the future. These are the roof and floor plans. So you've got the first floor plan here. The second floor, you can see the dotted outline here is where that first floor sits underneath it. So it is a 1.5 story structure. It's just under that 70% threshold. And then the roof plan is here. They've got all of their code information. Thank you for providing that. It makes reviewing it much easier. The front and rear elevation. So this is the side that faces Wharf Street, and then this faces the rear of the lot. So you have the front elevation. It has a front porch that runs this portion, and then this is a infilled portion of the what would be the porch, the porch roof, as well as some dormers up here. This is the rear of the structure, so you can see the small bump out here over on the side with the second story, which sits well within that first floor here. The right and left elevation, so this is the right elevation, so you're seeing the porch here, and on the left elevation you see where that portion of the front is infilled in right here. I have the wall sections, porch sections, and some detail here, as well as the window and door schedule. I'm happy to go back to any of the slides as you guys need to look at them a little bit closer. I do run through it fairly quickly, and I know that. So, and then the landscape plan for the site. So they've got some landscaping along the front here for the foundation plantings. And then the canopy coverage image here. Again, Sean and Kathy are here on behalf of the project to speak on it. The HPC considers the 8 review criteria set in section 318.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance and can approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve it with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Staff found that with the following conditions, it could meet those requirements and be approved with conditions. The first item, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go through them if you'd like, and then can flip through slides as we discuss. Does that work best, or? You're on mute.
Good old zooming. It seems like sometimes it looks like there's quite a few items on here. Sometimes the preference is to go through each item and then have discussion, or go through all items, but then it seems like it's been kind of more useful to go through each item, and if there's
I think on Zoom that probably works
works in the best interest in a further discussion, or if you could bring up that particular area in the elevation so we could see what is actually meant to be the best. So let's go about it in that direction, Katie.
Okay, so the first item is that a primary structure cannot be approved for the site until the manufactured home is removed, the subdivision created to create that vacant parcel, because within the historic district, because it's a form-based code, the density for lots within the historic district are derived by the building type which is placed on that lot. This one already has a manufactured home which falls into that additional building type standard. So a second primary structure couldn't be approved until it is removed, or the well, a second one could not be approved, but this primary would become the only primary on the site. So for the site plan that you've got here, that's the manufactured home. They do have a subdivision that has been proposed. It just hasn't been completed and recorded. So if that gets completed and recorded, that would create this vacant parcel and allow this to move forward. Or the manufactured home, because it's manufactured home, could be removed with a demolition permit that does not have to be reviewed by the HPC.
Does everyone understand that? It's somewhat confusing. There is a manufactured home that's existing on this property. Right now, this property is listed as one property. So therefore, by adding another house, you can't have two homes on one property. We don't have through DRC the approval for this to be two lots, so we have to approve it as shown today. Is that pretty much synopsis of it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
John, did you have a question?
So your board is approving the appropriateness of the structure, right? And you can approve it with stipulations. Am I not correct? So there won't be two primary structures on the lot that are occupiable. So because you can hold up occupancy of the other structure until the manufacturer home is removed. It
has to be, the manufactured home is on one property, so you have to go through DRC in order to have a subdivision, and that's not our privy at all. So therefore, we're looking at it as these drawings, and that's what we're approving it as for these drawings specifically.
Right. So 515.5 says that there can only be one primary structure.
So 515.5 says that the density is derived by the building type which is placed on the lot. There can only be one primary structure per lot and one accessory structure. The accessory structure has to meet the characteristics of a carriage house. A manufactured home meets those of an additional building type. So
it says one primary structure.
The density is derived by the building type which is placed on the lot. There is currently a primary structure on the site, making this the second one, which would no longer meet the density requirements because it would be a second primary structure on the site.
Okay, so I mean, we need to keep the manufactured home here until we finish the structure, and then we can remove the manufactured home and then move in. So what can we do for the town in order to make this happen? So
a subdivision that meets the lot requirements could be completed to be able to maintain two different lots, which would then have the primary structure on it.
They won't approve a subdivision until the manufactured home is removed.
If it doesn't meet the setbacks.
Well, you can't move the modular home. It's from 1988. It won't meet any of the structural requirements. You can't move the modular home to anywhere that meets the UDO because it already doesn't meet the UDO, and you can't subdivide it where the manufactured home is to meet the setbacks. So the manufactured home needs to be removed. We 100% agree. So we want to make this happen with what we have right now. So we're essentially coming to you all to see what are our options. I mean, besides removing the manufactured home, of course, we'll have to find a place to rent and while we're doing construction. And I know that's no skin off anybody's back except for ours.
So unfortunately, the HPC does not have the authority to approve a second primary structure on this site. If that were to be something that would be considered, it would be the Board of Zoning Appeals through the variance process, and you'd need to meet their criteria for that. But this commission has the authority to review the application as submitted, which is not meeting the density standards as currently proposed. So it could go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or potentially a letter could be written to the UDO administrator to see if she would allow the structure to remain, but not get a CO on the site. However, that's not up to this commission or myself as staff. It would be something you'd have to request otherwise.
So a primary structure would have to be occupiable. No?
It is. We are approving the construction of a primary structure here. This isn't the building department. This is for placing a home on the site as proposed on the site plan.
So basically, I think if you went, unfortunately, you brought it to this commission, and may I say maybe just too early, the possibility of what you suggested, Katie, would be more appropriate. And then with those letters of approval or letters of whatever their statements are, then to bring it to this board. Is that a step that could solve the solution? I know it's extending
that is an option. That is an option. the other option is that the subdivision be completed, creating a parcel that allows for this to be vacant or for the manufactured home to be removed.
Does anybody else have any recommendations, any other ideas? I mean, you guys wouldn't need to go any further than one if we can't comply with one, right?
So because there are options for how that could move forward, I would encourage us to go through the review criteria. So even if the application is tabled tonight, if you request it be tabled, I would encourage you to go through the rest of them just to make sure that the HPC is looked at all of these criteria and that you could make any changes that need to be made regardless of how you decide to move forward.
But he has these in written format now, so I guess the question would be is, since you have the recommendations already, and this is public knowledge, so I believe you have a copy of this, don't you, Sean?
I have not seen these yet.
Okay.
These are
So-
in the staff report that.
So this is in the staff report, which is available online and also could be sent to you. But these are all the recommendations, so instead of, as you were saying, us going through each item is good, but it's not going to get any approvals tonight.
It could receive a conditional approval as long as number one is identified. So again, because the HPC does not have the authority to allow a variance from the density of this site, one must be attached to an approval. However, if one is met, then the other items could potentially be approved at a staff level or brought back to the HPRC. If the applicant doesn't want to consider it with item one, it may be in your best interest to request the commission table it.
No, we can move forward. I didn't want to, in case this was a showstopper, I didn't want to waste anyone's any further time. That's all.
So
In a sense, it is a showstopper. In other words,
it is, however, it is an administrative showstopper because the subdivision is approved through a different commission and the demolition permit are. So both of those items don't have to come back to the HPC. So if staff can say, yes, they've met this condition, then it wouldn't have to come back to the HPC if the other items were met. Does that make sense?
Josh, you took yourself off mute. Do you want to say something?
Yes. So, Sean, in essence, number one's out of our hands. You know, you've got to satisfy number one in order for you to be able to build the home and be able to move forward with construction. However, we can set that aside for a second. And I would ask Katie, if we could read through the staff recommendations for 2, 3, 4, and 5, let's try to make as much progress with this agenda item as we can, with the hope that best case scenario, they do not have to come back to HPC for this meeting and this this process.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay. So the second item is that the landscape plan must be revised to include large canopy street trees no greater than 50 feet apart. The second one, because they are both landscape related, so I'm going to go through two this time, is that the canopy coverage exhibit must be updated to show the percentage of the site, not including rooftops, which will be at or exceed the 75% lot coverage. So this is the landscape plan and the canopy plan here. They do have some palmetto trees here at the front. Those are not considered large canopy trees, so there just needs to be large canopy trees installed rather than palmettos, or in addition to the palmettos. So that's an option as well if you want the palmettos there. And then the canopy coverage, it just wasn't quite to scale, so I couldn't put it over the site plan here. The site plan, so this here needs to be overlaid with what is being proposed. The future carriage house does not count at this time. Oops, I went the wrong way. Placed on here with the canopy coverage calculation, counting all of the area that is not under rooftop. And I can help you do that. I can show you an example of that if you need assistance with getting that calculation, because it is one that I see a lot of challenge with. So
yeah, so and just to explain what I was trying to do, we need to remove some of those dead trees, of course, that I put in the response. So that kind of thins out a little bit of the northern portion. And then the southern one, you can see the hatch that some trees moved. And then we're adding in on the front. So the large canopy trees, okay, we can accommodate that on the frontage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a very bad example of my drawing of your house because it's not at this angle. But what
it's not parallel to the road either.
it's not parallel to the street. And Sean, your house is proposed at parallel to the street. So that's not a concern. But
I'm kidding.
the area that will need to be calculated is the area that does not include the rooftop. So like this area here would not count towards that canopy coverage. We're looking for 75% of this space here to be that rooftop area. So, and again, I can show you that more after at a later date, basically, for that one. It's something that we see. I just couldn't quite scale it there.
Okay.
The next one is to establish vertical rhythm along the front facade, dormers must be centered to align with the windows or columns on the first floor. So that is, if you take a look at the front elevation here, this dormer on the right does align here with the center of this. My line might not be perfectly straight, but it's close. And then this one is off center here, and it doesn't center itself on the door here. So this dormer would need to be shifted over, or the porch narrowed, or some format to make the dormers align with those center lines of columns or windows below.
Okay, so I hear you. So are you saying they have to be moved, or you're recommending them they moved? I guess I would ask everybody, do you feel that the rhythm, and I'll use your term, I mean, it's not really rhythm, but do you guys, does anyone else feel that, if you can go back to the front elevation, please?
Evan, if you could look at this.
It doesn't look appealing, or at least take into consideration. Now, if you want to use the term rhythm, it would be like an A-B-A-B-A kind of a rhythm is what you would be talking about. So the house does do that. So there is a top and a bottom portion that is broken up in the golden rule. So in each, the top and bottom portion are in their own rhythm. I know you say that, I know the ordinance calls out directly stacking elements. I think the elements seem to be visually stacked in a visually pleasing manner. So you can argue that things are stacked. I understand you're looking for symmetry is kind of what you keep drawing. You were drawing that you want things centered or the same distance apart or things like that. I don't know that symmetry is something that you have to have. I also read in the ordinance, I can bring it up, I think I used it in my response, that we're looking for people to do something a little unique here and there, not to do the exact same thing all the time. So I'm kind of giving my reasons for why it looks the way it does. Yes, there is function, but I did put some form over the function of it. And even though right now it's not the best layout for the function of the house, it works both hand in hand. So that's where I'm at with this. So if you guys feel it's visually unpleasing or it doesn't make sense to you visually, that I would like to entertain that and see if you had any suggestions. But I feel, of course, it's visually pleasing, and stacking them doesn't help the architecture.
Josh and Jesse, I see you guys are off mute. Do you want to add in?
Well, I mean, I will not. I mean, I think overall, it looks. I mean, it will be a great house. I do agree with staff's recommendation for that front elevation. I think, to your point, it does not necessarily have to be symmetrical, but symmetric. But it does need to be balanced, and it's really throwing me off that we have two dormers and you've got the doorway, and the fact that they're just a little that's not aligning. I don't know if it could make sense to do, and these aren't all at all, maybe do one bigger dormer that's centered on the doorway or something. I do understand, obviously, you've got one side that has the porch, one side that's completely filled in, and we're not asking, and nor does I haven't heard HPC ever say that we need symmetric buildings. They just need to be balanced, and right now there's not a good relationship between the first story and the second story. I don't know if
Josh and Evan, if you guys could, or anyone else, Evan, you're being an architect, do you have any feelings on this? Did you hear us, Evan?
Yes. Yeah. Me personally, it doesn't bother me being asymmetric, especially because the dormers are centered on the second story massing, which I think is more important overall from a design standpoint. If I have anything to say about the exterior, one point to bring up would be the C windows, which are over the, let's see, in the kitchen, over the sink. There's a gang of 3 of them, and then one in the same room on the rear elevation. I'd probably recommend that we match the window styles and have that 2/1 design style rather than mixing and matching between the 2/1 and a single one light. I don't know if that's in the purview of our discussion or not, but that would be one point I'd like to bring up.
I think Jesse had that same, right, Jesse? That was you and I that talked about it previously.
that was, yeah, during HPRC.
Yeah, and I know it was something, and that's not a hill I'm really care to climb. So I'm okay with adding mullions to that to make it similar to, or the same window style as the other ones. It was kind of just a preference of ours in that kitchen over the countertop to have that clear view. But if it's something that you guys prefer, I'm not completely married to the solid glass. So
Can you show that what he's talking about again? Because I didn't really see that.
On the side elevation is this window here.
So those triple windows and that single window on that side, on that little bump out, those are the only ones of that style without the double over single.
I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Josh, I see you're on mute. I mean, you're off mute. Did you want to add something?
So I don't want to say that there's not an easy way to find that alignment, to find that stacking, but without significant adjustments to the office and to the living room, there isn't, and that would also include having to adjust the front entry. So I think in the front elevation, what's hard to foresee is the step back of the porch and those A windows in the living room not being in the same plane as the office. So I really don't have anything more to add than what Evan has said. I recognize it, but it doesn't bother me. There's symmetry in the structure itself and the different segments of it. And I think that seeing it from the street, as opposed to a two-dimensional drawing, it's going to, or I'm not concerned with that. The Muntin issue on the C windows is an easy one. I think it'll be a good contribution to Wharf Street. So that's about all I've got.
Thank you. All right. So it looks like, Katie, I believe that was item number 4. So are we proceeding on number 5 now? Is that correct? Or where are we?
So just a point of clarification on this is that they need to, the code section that's being quoted, there is the vertical rhythm portion, but then also the dormers must be centered to align with windows or columns on the first floor. That's the section here, which I brought up, but I don't know if it was, can you all see that part of my screen?
So,
Or can you only see the PowerPoint?
So if there's if there's a motion made, we need to state that there's a deviation here. Is that correct?
It would be creating a deviation from this standard here, which requires that they shall be aligned with the elements below.
So moving forward, if somebody were to make a motion, we have to address that in the motion in some manner.
Well, I mean, so they are aligned. They, as you showed with your red line, they are aligned. They're just not aligned identically. So I did perform the shall. So if you draw a line again, center of the right side, technically the centers are aligned on the right side of the upper dormer to the lower window. And on the left side, the left jamb is aligned. So they are aligned. Now, are they aligned identically? No. But
that's the
letter of the law, I did shall align them. So that's where I just want to encourage everybody. I didn't try to bend any rules. I was doing what I thought was a visually appealing and aligning at the same time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Josh. Thank you.
Is there a precedence that's already been set that moves in conflict to this requirement?
Not that I'm familiar with.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Of existing homes that don't have aligned dormers?
So this
comes up. This comes up, and then I know that. Well, I believe this comes up in the recent discussions, and typically some architectural element was changed in order to do that. Now, Josh, I don't know if you did, or Jesse mentioned that what would happen if you made that just one big dormer?
And it should just be noted that the Unified Development Ordinance was updated in, I believe, August of last year to reflect some of the things that needed to be corrected from what wasn't in this Unified Development Ordinance. So this may be a section that has been added in since then. I can't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately, if it was added in August or if it had been there previously. But there are some structures in the historic district which do have elements which don't align directly above windows. However, it's not a precedent that has been set since that I can recall of, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So please note that I may not have every building in this historic district memorized that has had this specific discussion.
So Sean, that would be a good thing to do, and just even if it is for a follow-up review at the staff level, to be able to find and cite specific homes, especially historic structures that are contributing structures that would support your case here. And in essence, the intent of this item is to have the center of those two windows stacked identically to the center of the two windows on the right. So even though there is, as you stated, there is some alignment there, it's not completely symmetric. That's the intent, is the symmetry.
Going back to the discussion is what would happen if you made that one big dormer? Is that an architectural faux pas, or is that something that possibly would work? That would make this go away.
This is Evan speaking. I don't think it particularly works with the floor plan as is, unless you made some severe modifications to it. And I do want to bring up or harken back to Josh's point about the fact that the porch is inset versus the office, which is flush with the street side. I don't think it's going to be an issue from a visibility standpoint when you're looking at it in 3 dimensions. Again, I think the symmetry up on the second floor itself is paramount and would more than satisfy aesthetic, making it look aesthetically okay from the street. I don't see an issue with it. I also wanted to bring up, if we wanted some precedents, Sean, the Hayward House, which is the home of the historic Bluffton Foundation, is if you've ever walked by it and have any sort of eye for design as you do, it's notoriously off center with all the dormers. So that'd be a good one to bring up.
And I do recognize that the ordinance gets updated, and it's for a reason to make things more uniform and make things more appealing and to make this process easier. I do understand that. And so showing precedent of previous isn't always, it almost is something that we're trying not to do again. I understand that too, but where I'm trying to make sure is that the ordinance also says, I have a quote here that it says, sorry, I thought I had it right here, about in 5:15:1, prepared to provide guidance and consistency informative. It is not by any means intended to discourage creativity or force the replication of historic models set forth in of a framework, enhance Old Town. So all I'm just trying to say is, I think Joshua said that the intent. So if we get into the intent of the ordinance opposed to the letter of the law of the ordinance, we'll get into a slippery slope. So I was trying to fulfill the letter of it, that it shall align. And I feel like you guys aren't really going outside of you're not going outside of the letter approving this on that part, because it does align. Now, does it align, like Joshua said, the intent of the alignment that it was going for? I feel like that's where the creativity can come into play. I'm being a politician now, so I am asking that this elevation be approved as is. Can I put another?
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have the floor. You said you were going to add something, Sean?
Well, I mean, could I put another 15 hours into adjusting the floor plan that really works and makes sense? And whether you guys know or not, having multiple kids and having identical size rooms, it's a game changer to have identical size rooms, and I don't have to play favorites, right? So a lot of thought has been taken into the uniformity of that second floor, as well as the motion of the first floor and how it protrudes and has an open porch. So I'm really asking that this elevation be accepted as is, and I don't think it needs to be you're overriding the ordinance, because I think I still.
That's unfortunate, but we do have to state a motion for the purposes. If there's a motion made, we have to state it so that the reason for not following the UDO is clear. So that in the future.
But I did follow the UDO. I guess I'm not. So that's the only reason. Yeah, I want to make sure.
Mary, yeah, you're on mute. Yes.
Do you have it, because I get what you're saying, that it is a little bit off, but do you have it that way because the interior needs it that way, or because you think it looks aesthetically better?
So it was a compromise back and forth. So I did adjust the interior in order to make it more uniform. I did make sure it really liked the exterior before I finished the back and forth. So it was a form and function back and forth, push and pull. And this is where I came up to my happy medium, to make sure that you see how the front porch has 3 bays. So making those 3 bays feel very uniform, a full door, centered windows, and then you have the protrusion of the office on that first floor, which fills in, and it also kind of feels triple or 3-part, so that the form on the first level almost feels like 3 portions as well. From mass, void, void, it feels uniform as well. So to answer your question, I went back and forth multiple times, and this is where I found the happy medium. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah.
It looks
I
like
can't tell if it bothers me enough though I feel like if it was moved, I mean, I don't think we should ask the petitioner or whatever to make one big dormer, because that would really, I'm sure I'm one of 4, so I can appreciate the, making everything equal and all that. But I don't know. I think if you move the window, like if you move the left one, it would just throw the other part off. So I don't know.
Yes, because you have symmetry on the top, or actually, yeah, and then on the bottom.
I think I would rather have it symmetrical on top and not necessarily, anyway, I'm not able to fully articulate, but.
So any kind of movement of the dormers would have to be uniform either way to keep them symmetrical, and that would be more appealing on the upper mass. So when I do that, then it doesn't allow the lower portion to be uniform, as in the open porch. You want all 3 bays of the open porch to be equal. You want the solid of the room beside the porch to feel like a third. You have that whole play with making sure everything feels broken up equally. So when you start moving things around, and I did a lot of movement on this, so this is really what felt. And I mean, even the dormer fits almost exactly between the columns below it on the right side, and having it aligned with that window. And I don't know if pulling another vertical line down into the lower level from on the left side would help anyone.
I think it would just throw something else off.
Can you add an extra 2? It's about 2 feet off. If you add 2 feet to the side and shift the hallway.
The cost per square foot right now.
Yeah, no, but I'm looking at the floor plan, and I understand that, but I'm looking at the floor plan, and it looks like, as you stated, there are 2 bedrooms, but then there's like an empty room. I'm not sure what that room is shown as. Is it a big closet, or is it a playroom, or the rooms in between the bedrooms upstairs? No, I don't know what that is.
It's a bonus room is what it's labeled as.
The little interior.
I think he's talking about the closet for that
closet
bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, the closet.
Yeah, so that's a closet in between.
Yeah.
So what would, there's a shift that could be made, and it's really not affecting the size of the room, is it? Unless the dormer, I mean, if it's shifted, it looks, I know that interiorly it's shifted, but if you did shift it, well, yeah,
and you're right. The exact square footage is not exact, so
it's not going to affect your square footage.
It's going to feel the same size. The usage of that space is going to. Yeah, you're right. Things can shift, and I've done that many times.
Because we're affecting a closet, so therefore that's not that critical. And then it looks like you have a half a wall or something. I'm not sure clear what that other box is into the far left and far right. It looks.
Those are the roof line.
Okay, those are the roof lines.
It slopes down. It slopes down, so your ceiling sloped right there.
Okay, so that's
from 8 foot to from 8 foot to 5 foot.
it seems like there's still some room without really affecting your square footage that could be jiggled. If somebody looks at the floor plan, could somebody look at the floor plan, upper floor plan with me, maybe? In other words, we got a little bit of a conundrum here, and I'm not sure how to address it other than saying, well, we're going to approve this. And the problem is once you set a precedent, you set a precedent, and we just have to state in the motion why we're setting a precedent. If somebody's willing to do that in some form,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Commissioner. I mean, I'm happy to make the motion to set this precedent because I think there's clear rhythm established between different pieces of the first floor and the second floors separately, and I think they work in harmony. I'd be happy to make that.
So as we continue on, we still have we still have items to go through. So that would be if you're going to be making the motion, please include that in your motion for number 4 then.
Sure.
And Nathan, Evan, that's very good if you want to step forward and make a motion on your first day. That's cool.
So the next item is that a detail for the service yard needs to be provided. The location of it is shown. We just need the height and the actual configuration of what that's going to look like to make sure it meets the standards in the ordinance. A corner board detail needs to be provided showing the dimensions. A water table. The water table needs to be revised to be a minimum of 5/4 stock on both the skirt board and that drip board. So it is shown on a couple places. Here is one of them where it's showing as a 1x at the skirt board, and then there's another location somewhere else.
So that just needs to be clarified.
So it needs to be updated to be a 5/4 stock minimum. It can be 5/4 or 2x.
Easy.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That's something that's typically missed, so that's an easy fix.
In your corners plan, the corner detail is in plan.
Sorry.
I
can't hear you. I'm sorry.
What did you say? Please repeat yourself.
You're asking for a corner detail.
Yes.
Do you want that in plan view, or how do you want your corner detail?
So I need to see how the corner joins itself to make sure that there's not
okay, in plan. Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plan detail.
Okay. Thank you.
I am on number
7.
8.
8.
7
okay.
is the water table, which we discussed.
Yes.
Needs to be
All right.
updated. Number 8 is the soffit material needs to be provided. A lot of times it is shown as a plywood material. It just needs to be noted that it's either a pressure treated or a hardy material up in that soffit. And then a tree removal permit is required prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. And there was a note that said that there was a pool and it was only on one elevation, and I think it was probably a Scrivener's error. But because I
couldn't find a pool deck.
There was no pool deck, so it is just there was one elevation where it showed that it was left off for clarity, and I think it was probably left on from an old plan. But I have to put it on there because the minute I don't, all of a sudden there's a pool when I go out to inspect, and it's
that's an old plan error. Yes,
and that's okay.
You're correct.
So
that'll be just has to be
through it
removed
with red marker for all I care, as long as it is.
I'll fire the draftsman. I'll fire the draftsman.
And then that was the last one that I had there. So again,
so it
this
looks
is
like
administrative, and so is the tree removal. It needs to be taken through.
So Evan, also you need to. It sounds like you may be looking at making a motion, but include window C in the motion so that that discussion is put in there too, please.
Yep. Okay, for me to go ahead and make a motion.
Do we have any? Sean, do you have any further discussions?
No, I've taken up plenty of your time. I thank you guys.
Anyone on the commission? Jesse, I see you're unmuted. You want to say something or no? We're good? Everyone good? Okay. Evan? I just have to say, I think this is one of the first times that the first time person is making a motion, so applauding you. Good job.
Impressive.
Sorry if I mess up.
Hey, try it. Go.
I would like to make,
Before you do, sometimes an easy way to do it is say that per staff recommendations for item blah, 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 blah. And then if you need to change one of the items, then state what that is rather than reading all the items.
okay.
Is that correct, Katie?
That is the way to go through it. If you agree with it verbatim, feel free to say per staff
Sure.
5.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, then I would like to make a motion to approve the submitted application per staff recommendations with the exception of item number 4 and stating that we're breaking with precedent due to the fact that the dormer alignment is still in keeping with overall rhythmic harmony on the street side elevation. I would also like to add a recommendation that window C would be revised to include the same mullion division design, the 2/1, to match windows A and B.
Is that clear, Carrie? And Katie? Good. Okay, we have a thumbs up. So therefore, I'm looking at a second on this, please.
Josh, second.
And do we have any further discussions?
I have
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mary. You have
a procedural discussion. So I agree, but I don't think that those windows should have to remove the thing. How would that, do I just either go or make my own motion?
You could, the motion is on the table. You can't make your own motion. In order to reverse the motion, it's quite complex. So one idea is that
I don't want to reverse it.
you would just vote nay on this for the whole motion.
I just was curious for future stuff as well.
If I may, Mary, you stated that the removal of the muntin. I would just ask, Evan, could you please clarify that component of your motion?
Yes. Yeah. So to clarify that portion, that recommendation to the motion, I'm recommending that we add muntins or mullions into window C to revise it from a single light window with all glass and no muntins to be a 2/1 to match windows A and B.
Carrie, is that going to mess our motion up, or did you have good clarification for what was stated?
It's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Mary. Go ahead.
I just don't think it's necessary, and I didn't see anything in the codes that, supported it, but.
So in order to retract that, we'd have to take this motion off the table and then restate let's see, Katie, we just learned on how to do this. It's quite a process.
So if the motion wanted to be amended, you would have to make a motion to amend it. The whole commission would vote on whether or not they wanted to amend the motion. And then the amendment would have to be voted on. And then the motion to amend, the motion which is now amended would have to be voted on.
I'm going to just.
Okay. I'm not trying to deter you from doing that if you want to go ahead. I mean, you're
I
welcome
appreciate
to.
that.
Yeah.
That was my main question, is just the procedural. Okay.
Yeah. So the procedural just gets kind of complex once a motion's on the table and was seconded. So it's so we are in a second, and now I'm looking for a vote for this motion. And I guess Carrie?
All right, Bruce?
I vote yay.
Mary?
Yay. Or A.
Michael?
Yes.
Josh?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Evan?
Aye.
So
Unanimous.
Motion passed. So
I will follow up with you, Barbinas, tomorrow. Are they still on here? Yes, they are.
And honestly, I apologize for not going through the proper pathway. with number one. I sincerely apologize. I was not prepared for not this board not having the ability to say that this isn't appropriate and let another board handle that portion. But I understand the process. I appreciate you guys doing this.
And Katie, just to refresh on that, is number one item needs to be accomplished before
Anything,
now,
really.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Understood.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
PowerPoint is not coming up.
Let's see. So it looks like we are, what time is it? It's 8 o'clock. So we're
So, okay. Yeah.
we're still kind of chugging and plugging, and we're at item number 4 for new items. And Katie, you're up, and I believe we need to bring back in someone from the Court Atkins architectural firm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Atkins is in the meeting and connecting to audio.
Who's coming in, please?
James Atkins.
James Atkins. Okay. Very
Hello,
good. Thank you.
I am restarting my
Let's-
PowerPoint here because it has decided to not carry
We
on.
have James joining us with Atkins Dyer, and it looks like Katie, you are the one to take this, correct?
Yes, and hopefully my PowerPoint will load here. But this is a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 27 Bridge Street. It is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. It is zoned neighborhood conservation. It is loading. This is the property that is directly across the street from, I guess, directly across and kitty corner. It's directly across from the parking lot at Town Hall. Please load.
The gravel parking lot.
Yes. Come on. Sorry, guys. It is spinning.
Well, where's the storms, guys?
My computer says rain coming.
Oh no, rain's coming. Oh,
A moment ago, it said 81 tornado. So I think we've actually
81
increased our
tornadoes.
odds here.
And where are 81 tornadoes where?
That was unclear.
Yeah. In the
Okay,
nation?
so
Yeah.
while my thing is trying to load here, I'm going to share the staff report version of it, which has the packet. And hopefully my PowerPoint here will decide to catch up. So this is a certificate of appropriateness. It's a request by Court Atkins on behalf of Mike Nurse. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Because that's the saddest when I don't.
Nurhus.
Nurhus. Okay. I will pronounce it that way from now on. To allow the construction of a new 1.5-story single-family residence of approximately 4,120 square feet and a carriage house structure of approximately 1,188 square feet to be located at 27 Bridge Street. It is here in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it's zoned neighborhood conservation. The going to use PDF here. I apologize that my PowerPoint has decided to give up on us. So Town Hall is located up here. This is Pritchard Street, and this is where Pritchard Street turns into the dirt road. This is Bridge Street that lines along the front. You can see the OCRM critical line. That is this line of L's here, and then the reduction, which is set back to here because it does qualify for the 60-40% OCRM setback reduction. The primary structure is fronting Pritchard Street with the driveway off of Bridge Street here, which is how it gets that Bridge Street address. You can see the carriage house.
If you could clarify that, because I was a little confused on that. I don't know if anyone else on the committee needs to understand that, but even though it has a Bridge Street address, it's actually the front entrance is Pritchard Street and it's allowed. So,
It is. So it is fronting Pritchard Street, which is the same as the structure that is to its right, towards the river there, and the one across the street fronts Pritchard Street as well. So these structures are fronting Pritchard Street. There does need to be articulation on the Bridge Street side, as it is a secondary frontage, but the primary entrance is on Pritchard Street here. They've elected to have the house face that direction. With the way that this lot is configured, it makes most sense for it to face Pritchard Street, with the depth being this way, so that the rear setback wouldn't come off of this property line here and have the back facing its neighboring property.
thank you.
So this is, I'm sorry, I've scrolled fast because I'm on PDF instead of PowerPoint. This is the first floor plan. So again, this is the front here, and then Bridge Street would run along the bottom of your page. So this is the carriage house structure here. The first floor has a front porch that again faces Pritchard Street. It does have stairs that go towards Bridge Street. There's a rear porch. This section here is rear porch that tucks along here. So there's screened porch and then open porch here. On the second floor, or the half story above, it is a smaller area here, and then in the carriage house you can see that that is also a two-story structure. For the roof plan, you've got the porch along the front here. Here's the rear porch, the carriage house, and the primary structure. With that, there's a breezeway that connects the two structures. So the front elevation, and I can zoom in a little bit for you here because I am still waiting on PowerPoint to decide it wants to be part of the party tonight. The front elevation here is facing Pritchard Street, so you've got your double entrance doors. This would be Bridge Street to the side here. Oops, that was a little excessive. The right elevation, so this is the side that you would see as you were standing on Bridge Street or in the parking lot across the street. You would see the front porch here, along with the primary structure. This is that breezeway. There is a service yard or fence that runs along here. The service yard is located behind that fence, so it does not take up this whole area, but it is located behind that. And then you've got your carriage house structure here. The rear elevation, so this is, you're looking at the back of the carriage house with the porch behind, and then you've got the primary structure that you're seeing behind that. For some reason, my line weight has also decided to turn off, but there is a roof line. Oh, there it is. That continues along here. I think rain is coming means that my computer has just decided that's it. It's going to get wet. It doesn't like that. And then you have your left elevation. So this is if you were standing towards the river looking at it from the other direction. So you'd see the parking lot behind it over here and Town Hall off in the distance with its double roof over here. You can see the screened portion of that porch that I talked about, as well as the breezeway connecting to the carriage house structure here. We have our windows and our doors along with the window and door schedules. The sections here as well as some details. So you've got your stair detail as well as your chimney cap and that service yard detail here. And then should you want to know about window flashing, we have all of the detail on that as well. And the electric plans, which you all are not making a determination on those tonight. Here's the landscape drawings. So the landscape plans are here. You can see again, Pritchard Street on the right side of the screen with Bridge Street along the front here. They have proposed a pool area with a small spa and some hardscaping that runs along here. And they've got their foundation plantings along the front and the side where it faces Bridge Street here. And then this is their canopy coverage plan, which here shows your calculations. And they've got the area not included in the rooftops. Thank you for showing that clearly for us. I keep trying. It's not going to work, so I'm just going to give up and continue on from my PDF version here. Here's the section of that fence that is running along the side of the structure. And then you've got your pool deck detail as well as the mix of gravel that they've proposed in a few of the spaces and their driveway. They have provided us with an arborist report. And that would be the end of my slideshow pictures. They would have been cropped very nicely so you could see them zoomed in really close. However, we are going to make do with what we've got tonight. All of the same images are there, and this entire packet is on the website if you need to take a closer look at it. The HPC has the authority, though, to review the criteria which are set forth in Section 318.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance when they make a motion to approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff has found that with a few conditions, this application could meet the ordinance and be approved or approved with conditions. Mr. Chairman, I'll run through those, and it may take me a moment to flip back and forth between the two since we are using the same handler for both of these items here.
Yes, and again, going back, and it's just easier to go through each item and then kind of have an open discussion on each item. Unfortunately, your computer isn't going well, but go ahead, Katie. And it looks like that first one, if you could bring up the elevation, I guess.
Yes. So the first item is that the structure should be moved towards the back of the lot to allow for the 12-inch southern magnolia near the northeast corner of the house to survive and protect the existing canopy coverage. I'm going to go through the first three because they're all landscape related real quick before we take a look at these. The second one is that the landscape plan would needs to be updated to show large canopy trees no greater than 50 feet apart along the Bridge Street side of the lot. And the third is that the landscape plan will need to be updated to reflect the canopy coverage should any tree from the arborist report currently proposed to be saved be removed with that tree removal permit. So the landscape plans had come in and they've submitted the arborist report a little bit after that. So these did not take into consideration some of the items that were addressed on here. One of the items that we had discussed through the pre-app and the conceptual application was protecting a large tree that sits between the primary structure and the garage, which is currently being shown as saved because it was it is a 36-inch oak tree here. As you can see, it's got tree protection around it on their site plan. However, the arborist report, when you look at the arborist report here, calls out that tree as number 1, which has massive decay and is in declining health. So if they are to propose that tree for removal, then
they have to include another
canopy. It's going to change
canopy
a little bit on how that's
on the
looking
canopy
to the site.
coverage, and also
so
for canopy coverage. In other words, it's going to have to be
yeah.
another...
So it becomes kind of a domino effect on if that tree, which is counting towards this canopy coverage right here, goes away, then that canopy coverage is going to have to be updated. And if this tree is going away, which we moved the house to make sure that we could protect that tree, there's a magnolia, which is noted as being in good health, that's being proposed for removal on the landscape plan, which sits right at the corner here and the house could be pushed back a bit in order to protect that tree and get closer to that carriage house structure.
James, is that going to mess up the setbacks or anything? Because then what does that also do to the setback rulings from the front of the street?
I'll just, I think we have room on the front, kind of a minimum baseline setback, but it is somewhat of a accordion. We got the arborist report a little bit after the landscape plan. We can certainly move the house back a little bit. I'm just not sure we're going to be able to move it back far enough to save that 12-inch magnolia, because in the HPRC, we determined we were going to move the driveway and there's an existing curb cut there. And based upon the town's extensive stormwater project that's going down Bridge Street, there's some inlets that they're going to be putting there, and so we can't move the driveway. So we probably can move the house back, 3, 4, or 5 feet, but then that tree is going to be kind of in the middle of those stairs and that sidewalk that lead to Bridge Street, which was something that the HPRC liked, the fact that we were connecting to the Bridge Street sidewalk from the porch. So I think we propose that we go ahead and remove the 12-inch magnolia too, just because no matter what we do, it's still going to be close to the house. And we will then come in concert with item number 2 and plant some new hardwood trees along the street. We weren't showing them yet just because we're still waiting on a little bit of clarification in the finalized landscape plan from the town, because they're adding a new sidewalk, some stormwater, and the clients negotiated a couple little easements there for access. And we want to make sure, A, the town's not planting anything. I don't think they are. It's just grass strip. But we also didn't want to go plant trees without knowing the timing of what that project is going to be, because we would hate to go plant new oak trees and then them getting destroyed during the construction project. So we'll get some clarification on that. And my hope would be that we would remove the 12-inch magnolia, because I don't think, no matter what we do, it's really going to survive construction, and a lot of the canopy is going to get clipped. And then we would come along the Bridge Street side and plant maybe 3 nice oak trees, and then maybe we'll plant a magnolia somewhere.
Now, Katie, doesn't that sit within the tree removal guidance rather than us, or how? And then also, it sounds like there's some dynamics going on with easements and town construction.
There's an easement that's
things.
been proposed, or that's been obtained for the sidewalk to go in as part of that streetscape project. However, there still do need to be street trees that are shown on the landscape plan every 50 feet of development. The town is not proposing any trees along this because they would all be on private property and would take up that that space.
Well,
I'm sorry.
And then my question on that is, are there any power lines above where this requirement is? And if we're planting trees in an area, and I guess I should have looked to see if there's any power lines on
No.
this.
I think they go from the corner and cross the street, so they aren't along our side of the Bridge Street. So I would propose that we remove the 12-inch magnolia and plant 2 to 3 hardwoods along the street, and it will tackle item number 2, and then it will increase the canopy for item number 3 with the removal of the other tree. And we can work with the landscape architect to perhaps plant a magnolia tree maybe on the front left of the house or something, to kind of provide some balance and additional trees along.
Jesse, I'm going to refer to you, since this has been the landscape, not Michael, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Well, I don't know if you'd be hard pressed, even if that, what they're calling now a willow oak and that arborist report went away. If you accordion the building, if you want to do that, I still think you'd be really hard pressed. That tree really wouldn't be worth saving without you'd be clipping it, I would think, a lot.
Yeah.
So that all sounds appropriate, especially with the new streetscape that goes along Bridge Street. You'll have a nice clear area to plant a nice rhythm of trees, which I'm sure they'll do.
So if somebody is going to be making a motion.
The streetscape is not proposing any trees as part of the streetscape along Bridge Street because there's not enough space for that.
We'll propose.
I was just. Yeah,
but it can be added.
What the architect or James was saying, was speaking to, was just planting back hardwoods along Bridge Street. There's a fair amount in the current landscape plan. right now there's a fair amount of sodded areas before you get up to the foundation planting, and that would be a great area for, I mean, where, you know, where it makes sense.
So if someone's making a motion to kind of include this conversation in the motion, to include that verbiage. And then, Katie, as you said, the streetscaping doesn't allow us or allow the town to plant on private property, but something on private property, which this is, could be incorporated to make it even look like a better streetscaping. Is that kind of, Jesse, what you're thinking, or James?
Well, there's still the, I mean, correct me if I'm, the 50-foot on center street tree requirement. So, and it sounds like what James was saying would more or less cover that requirement and help, I know we don't get into it, but mitigate some of the tree removals.
Because we do have quite a bit of footage on Bridge Street now. That's not going to include Pritchard Street, just Bridge Street, correct?
There already are hardwoods that are every 50 feet on Pritchard Street as shown. Now, if that were to change, that standard does apply to Pritchard Street as well. So if things become adjusted on Pritchard Street, but this tree right here has been proposed to be saved, and it is noted as one of the 4 that were identified that it is number, 5, which is identified as the southern red oak that has no significant issue and would be very survivable. So this is one of those, because it is close enough to the front there. In this case, we'll count it since it's a large enough tree. And then there is a magnolia that's located right here that counts towards that canopy or large street tree requirement as well, and is counting towards the canopy as well, but that's a different item.
So we'll add some street trees. We'd like to request removal of the 12-inch magnolia because I don't think it's going to survive, and we'll chop it all up, and it'll actually probably make the 710 magnolia in front of it live a little more healthy. And we'll get all that cleaned up and resubmitted.
Okay. So I do want to point out that this is from the edge of the house here to the center line of that oak tree is measured at about 6 feet, and the porch is about 6 feet in depth, right?
I think it's a little more than that.
I've got the drawings pulled up here.
I think it's 8.
It's maybe 8.
But even if we pull the back, I'm just going to be right at that corner. We're going to end up lopping off by the time they dig the footings for the porches in the house. And I don't think it's going to make it. I would rather plant a new magnolia a little farther out on the street away from it. And they grow reasonably well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So
Josh, that's you, okay? Go ahead.
yes, sir. So there's been a lot of emphasis put on this magnolia, but there's an 18-inch live oak that on this particular lot, there's a good bit of existing hardwood canopy between this. It's noted as a southern red oak on the arborist report, but a turkey oak on the landscape drawings and the tree and topo. I would consider shifting the home to save this 18-inch live oak.
Josh, is it this one you're speaking about here?
I'm sorry, let me go back to.
It's the one that she's circling right now.
Yes, can you bring up the Google Street View?
This is 2019, so please note that this is older than today. It does not look like this today, except for maybe that. Lots of clouds.
So that's going to be the turkey oak that's being noted. So
this one here.
That's a lot of canopy that's going to be removed. And if we go down the street just a little bit.
Is that turkey, can we look at that turkey oak? Was it in stress in that picture?
Well, we really just have to go by the arborist report.
Yeah.
It is number
Number 8,
Not-
I believe.
Number 8
At the
is,
front?
no, that's the magnolia in the front, isn't it?
So the 9 and the 9, I believe, is the magnolia, and the 8
Oh,
is
this is the turkey oak here,
correct.
which
On the
is
arbor
number
report, it's-
8, which is,
That's the one that's declining. It's from the top.
is 8 here, which is declining, it says.
Mhm. So I just note that just to it's a huge tree that's coming out. Where there's a lot of large canopy trees that are going to be removed from this property.
Mhm.
The magnolia is a relatively young tree, not providing a lot of canopy. But I think that 18-inch live oak could possibly be saved by making the shift, assuming that it is in good health.
So that's number 8 on this. You're talking about this one here?
No,
This
So-
one here.
that guy right there, yes.
Okay, and that one's not included in the arborist report. But
You can
if the
take a
house were
look
to
at
shift
that.
back 6, that would possibly be, it is in the setback. And it would potentially be in this area here. It's, the tree won't move, but if the house moved, it could potentially be in this space of the tree, of the house.
So-
Josh, I actually really like that tree, and
Yes.
we could shift the house south some to get a little farther away. The whole canopy actually flies over Bridge Street, and I have concerns, quite honestly. They've got a huge stormwater pipe that's going underneath the existing sidewalk along this entire property, down past his curb cut into a big, I think 48 or 60-inch inlet just outside his property. I'm guessing a majority of that root structure is actually sitting under that sidewalk on Bridge Street. And when they come digging up a very deep trench along that property line, I'm worried that that tree is going to get compromised. And so we're in this conundrum where my hunch is most of the root structure is under the road and around, because that's where the entire canopy goes. That whole tree leans towards Bridge Street.
Yes.
And I actually think it's a great tree, and would love to save it, but I'm worried that we're going to be stuck with a dead tree after the town's done with their stormwater project along Bridge Street.
So Josh and James, a potential way to address that would be to say, to include in a motion that the house be shifted to protect that tree should an arborist report find that it is sound. And that way it,
Well, I would ask this,
that way,
Katie.
I'm sorry?
I would ask this: does watershed management is there a possibility to take that tree into consideration? Now it kind of falls back on the town in working towards finding a solution to maintain this tree.
I can discuss it with our watershed department as well. I don't know what infrastructure is in that specific location. I know that there is a large underground retention output box thing. I can't come up with words because I'm sorry, I've used them all tonight. But in this location right here, and so that's why the driveway shifted this direction in order to avoid one infrastructure issue. But because I was focused on this one, I'm not entirely sure what is under that location. But between
Josh, that pipe runs down that sidewalk across the entire edge. And so it gets deeper and deeper. And then once it gets past his driveway, it hits a huge inlet and drops down and goes under Bridge Street and across the street into a stormwater management pond on the town property behind the parking lot. And then the outflow of that is back into the cove. So, I mean, which is really great. It keeps direct runoff running into the cove. But I'd be happy to reconnect with Pat Rooney and just talk about that tree. We have probably about a foot that we can shift the house down the page there and, just get further. And again, that entire canopy starts there and goes over Bridge Street. So it would not really impact the design of the house at all, but it is a nice tree. It would be nice. And we'll get the arborist report to take a look at it. If there is issues with it, then, that'll solve that problem. But if it is a healthy tree, then I'll connect with Pat Rooney again at the town and kind of make note of the conversation.
My main concern as it relates to what we're talking about right now, which is in essence is trees and canopy.
Mhm.
This property does have some great trees. It has beautiful specimen trees, and the architectural design of this home is fantastic. However, we're taking out a good number of specimen magnolias and live oaks that it is going to be met with a discerning eye once that clearing takes place. So
Absolutely.
we
I
need to,
agree, Josh. If they were healthy and they weren't dying, we would save them, and we went out and that's why we took a while to get the Arborist report, because we were going to make an effort to save the 36 as well as the 24 up in the front. But you know, even that one, the 24 up on Pritchard Street, when after the HPRC, I went out and took a look at it, and it's all but a stag at this point. So, but it has a few live leaves on a couple small twigs, so they've surveyed it. But unfortunately, most of those trees in this area are nearing the end of their life, and I don't think they're going to survive any sort of construction. The good news is, I think with the planting of some new healthy trees, and if you all recall, there used to be an old dilapidated house out there in the OCRM, which is now gone. So I do think that the 24-inch laurels, there's a 42-inch laurel, 38 live oak that's down in the OCRM area. I think those will continue to flourish now just because that old house is gone and aren't impacted by that. So
agreed.
So Josh, if, or anyone who wants to take this into consideration, this code section right here, 533C is the one that talks about the existing canopy for the site. So if you want to incorporate, if at all possible, or with the arborist report or some, if the arborist report deems it appropriate per section 533, the 12-inch magnolia or the turkey oak or the turkey oak, however you want to address that, but that section works for both of those if you want to incorporate that.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
The next one is that the finished floor height must be raised to be no less than 3 feet above average adjacent sidewalk grade. It currently is measured as a little less than that. It's sitting at, I think, 2 feet 10, so it's just a couple inches shy of meeting that requirement, but needs to be updated to reflect that.
Katie, when it says sidewalk grade, the sidewalk's sitting actually at like 22.
Okay.
So is it the grade at the sidewalk or the grade at the edge of the house?
It's average adjacent sidewalk grade. So if you want to mark that on the plans so that it's clear where that sidewalk grade is, then I can take it from there. It's just not shown on the plans, and since I've got the measurement from what is shown as grade on the plan, that's where I have to take it from right now.
If you could bring up L1 just for the board to see. So on the landscape plan, there's a variety of spot elevations. I think on our elevations, it just says see landscape plan. So if you zoom in to that sidewalk on the top there, just for point of reference for everybody, we're at 20.6, and then up at the front, I think it goes up to about 21, and our house is set at 26.4. So that's why I was just looking for clarification. If it's sidewalk grade, then I think we're well above the sidewalk more than 3 feet. If it's adjacent grade, then we can tinker that a couple inches.
Yeah, so your finished grade is there. I pulled it from where I could on these plans. So that will work as long as you just note that there. The water table is noted as a 1x for the skirt board, I believe. So it needs to be upgraded to a 5/4 material or greater. And then the type G windows on the left elevation are folding windows and must be revised to a permitted window operation. They're not shown on the plans because it's located behind the structure. So you can't actually see where it is, but it's located behind here. It's on the side there. So
If you go to the rear,
behind this chimney here, but on the floor plan,
Yeah.
you can see it.
What do you mean folding windows? I'm sorry.
it's like a accordion window, like a fold, like you would see on a folding door.
It's
So-
right here.
I
Oh,
would ask
oh,
the board to consider a deviation there, since you don't see it from the street and it's on the screen porch, and the thought is when they're entertaining, they can open all that up, kind of hold court at the bar on the screen porch, and it's not visible, and it's behind the screen and screened from the fire, the neighbor from the fireplace. If
is
it's
that a
something
window or a door?
It's a window. It's a folding window that opens up.
It's noted on the.
But you don't
I
see
had
it
them all
from
on the same
anywhere.
page, guys, in my PowerPoint. It was beautiful. You could see them all so that I didn't have to go through 7 pages. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
But if
So
it's
this is
something that the board wouldn't consider, then we would, guess we change it to a tilt-up window or pair of casements or something, but it doesn't really make
we
for
have-
a nice bar.
Haven't we approved a fold-up window?
So a tilt window has been something that's permitted, but we have not approved a folding window, an accordion or a.
But we have approved the
folding
type that lifts up.
Yes, a tilt window is a permitted window type. But
It's-
we have not yet approved a service window that is of this folding variety. There are a couple even walk-up windows that have not had this type of window permitted with them. So
And
It looks like the rest of the windows and a casement window, but rather than having two leaves, it folds up against the wall, and the bar and the porch all
To
become one space.
accomplish the same goal, I've seen a window that actually is quite large, and it's on some type of hydraulics, and it lifts up, and it's quite attractive. And it would meet that requirement, wouldn't it, or no?
a horizontal window is also not a permitted window. So I don't have enough information about this. It currently, because it's the dimensions on it are showing it as vertical. However, I'd need to see the elevation of what it is that you're talking about, Bruce. But if it's
When the window's
one that
closed, it will look
rolls,
like
that's not a
four
permitted
casements.
window type either.
So, on this window, when the window's closed, it will look like 4 fixed panels, a vertical window. The operation is that when it opens, you get the full bar width without window mullions and stuff in between. So again, I just ask for consideration, considering that it's on the screen porch behind the fireplace, and nobody will see it unless you come visit for a drink on the porch, which I'm sure Mike would be glad to host.
Does anyone on the board have any feelings on that, Evan?
Yeah, have we, is there precedent for approving doors that are bifold like that? Because they're
No.
essentially the same thing. I mean, granted, it is a window, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same kind of function.
No, there has been, there have not been folding doors that have been permitted. There's been a couple instances where a gliding French door, there have been like 2, I believe, that have all of the detailing of a French door, but it actually slides behind it. It's not a sliding door, but a gliding door. And there's like 2 versions that have been approved, but folding doors have not yet been approved. Casement or French is the only operation that has, besides those 2 gliding French doors, which had extensive detail shown on them to make sure that they appeared to be French doors.
Okay.
Only other deviation I can think of is when I know on numerous occasions the board has approved like rolled up glass doors on commercial buildings. We could consider like a pocketed gliding window as well, if that would be a preference rather than folding out. We could basically have stacked windows that pocket into the wall as well. So that could be an option if there's a preference, even though again that's a deviation, but if the look is something that is more desirable.
Josh, I see you're off mute. Did you have something to add?
There was a house, I want to say that it was at Tabby Roads or it was at Stock Farm, where it was a similar instance where it was a screen porch and it was a serving entity. It was a serving window that I want to say that window was not approved.
That's the
So
one I was
James-
thinking of.
I share that, James, just to say that I do remember a window such as this coming across and not being approved for the sole reason of not setting that precedence. I'm not saying that this one isn't. I'm just saying that there is a history of that.
So again, not having a precedent that we're aware of utilizing this is we watch a slippery slope. So, how do you, it's probably best to not set a new precedent. If there's another architectural way of accomplishing the same task, I guess that'd be appreciative.
We can look at tilt windows. And again, I would just share that, there have been deviations that seem appropriate. Every application is reviewed on its own merits. And I know the board's been cautious to state why the deviation was appropriate here versus other times in the past when they've approved those things. So, but I do understand the perception of a precedent. But, the reality is just because it's approved here doesn't mean, or could be approved here doesn't mean it's automatically approved somewhere else.
Jesse, I see you're off mute. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just thinking about it. I mean, if ever there was a case, I feel strongly it's not on any one of the elevations. It's on an elevation, but with it being directly across from the fireplace, I don't have a strong opinion either way. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please. Josh. Yeah, go ahead.
Given that we do not have an elevation of this area, if I were making a motion, I would not necessarily shoot it down. However, I would ask for, an elevation to see and verify header alignment and that it does in its closed position resemble in like kind an approved window, and leave that for further consideration with HPRC or with staff.
So, and that you make a very valid point, is in a closed position, which we are most concerned about, that if you were to look at it from a visual street standpoint or wherever it's located, we're looking at as if we were looking at standard windows. James, since we don't have an elevation, it brings up a very good point, is, what's this thing really look like? We don't know.
Well, the window itself is on page A6.0, but I understand, and we can cut a section through that where the fireplace and the screen would be removed, so you could see it in context and that it aligns with the door and the 8-foot head height of the adjacent windows. It's in the upper right there. I notice we're missing the horizontal to align in looking at it, but
so I think that there could be a good case made, James. As you stated, when it's closed, it looks as though it were 4 casements. As long as it was presented in elevation with proper header alignment, et cetera, and muntins were in keeping, all of that.
yeah, we certainly can draw that. We've got as you'll see in item number 7, we've got a couple more partial elevations to draw for you. So,
So
I certainly add that one to the list.
I'm looking at the window schedule, and is that the window that's on the very top right?
Yeah.
The
Right
print
here.
is so I can't read it. I need my magnifying glass.
Yes, sir. Gee.
There you go. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Interesting. Okay. Again, if someone were to make a motion to include verbiage in there that could be brought back, Katie, to HPRC, or to staff level? What would HPRC probably be the right way to
I would
go?
recommend that it at least be brought back to HPRC, if not the full commission. It is not something that we have allowed in the past, and without more information on it, I'm not comfortable making that determination
Yeah, I
that you've
agree.
met that requirement.
And we don't want to put that burden on you. Okay. Continue. Looks like, where are we?
The next one is number 7, that the front elevation of the carriage house and the portion of the left elevation in the porch has not been provided and must be provided for review to make sure that they're in compliance. That's the section that is from, if you're standing on the back of the house looking towards the carriage house, and if you're standing on the porch looking towards Bridge Street, those elevations weren't provided incomplete. So I need to see those. And then a tree removal permit is required prior to issuance of the certificate of appropriateness, and all conditions will need to be met before they can pass their final historic district inspection.
All right. Any discussions from anyone? Josh, you're on mute, off mute. I guess that's how I'm kind of telling if you wanted to speak. Go ahead.
I'm running away to mute.
I can't, it's actually mute and unmute helps me out by saying, hey, okay, so you want to speak. Any discussions from anyone else? If not, I guess with the topics that we talked about need to be included in the motion, including the trees and including the type G window. Who is set to make a motion? I'm looking for motions.
No, I can't get off
Jesse?
mute. I'll give it a go.
Thank you, Jesse.
I was just going to ask, my notes fail me. We talked about, obviously, that 18-inch, I believe, laurel oak. Is that correct? That's
Live oak.
live oak?
Red oak.
Turkey oak.
Turkey oak.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's called a bunch of.
Yeah, there
There's
was-
a tree that is really hanging over Bridge Street, when we put it that way.
The 18-inch tree, got it.
That was number 8. Number 8, turkey oak, was it? I don't know.
No, that's a live oak.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think it was on it. It's so confusing because certain surveyors have different abbreviations. And then did we have a second tree that I know we talked a bunch about the 12-inch tree, and that's in, or the 12-inch magnolia that is in, that was a staff comment. But I feel like we discussed one more tree, or am I,
No.
is it incorrect? Okay.
I think that's it, Jesse.
Okay. Just give me one sec.
Anybody have any rain at their house yet?
No rain, but my computer still says it's coming.
Mine too.
I don't have a sophisticated enough computer. Mine's not saying anything.
I'm just kidding. That's not my computer. That's y'all's computer. So your Katie's computer still says it's on its way.
Again, it said tornado earlier, so I'm just grateful we're not doing this streaming from my bathtub.
If we were in person, there would be a tornado coming.
Oh yeah, we would all be taking cover in questionable spaces.
All right. I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make the, let's see, in regards to staff comment number 1, I would just like to add, along with that tree and the 18-inch live oak tree, that let's see, was can I, well, I'm in a motion, can I ask a question? probably not.
Well,
But,
are you in a formal motion now, or Katie, is he in a formal motion? Could he just say disregard and start all
Yeah.
over again?
Well, or can I ask? Can you please scroll to the arborist report? Was the 12-inch magnolia identified in that?
It's this one here.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I would like, I mean, to me, I don't see how I'm sorry, I'm talking out loud. I don't really see how to move,
Mr. Chairman and Jesse, if I might make
Yes,
a recommendation.
Yeah, so I guess I'm
So,
I'm sitting here trying to, okay, what, the motion, what do I need to do in regards to the motion at hand? Do we need to just say,
there's no motion at hand right now.
so there's no motion. Okay, so it's a
There's
discussion.
no
but-
motion. He's about to make one. However, if I were to provide any direction on how he may phrase item 1, it could be that per staff recommendation 1, if the arborist or if the structure can be moved to save it, if or tried to save the 12-inch magnolia, and if an arborist report reflects that the 18-inch tree hanging over Bridge Street could be saved, to move the house to do so. It could be dependent on the arborist report for that, Jesse.
okay.
And
That was
the
really-
tree removal permit, if you'd like to put it on that as well. So it can be handled kind of in that same area. It wouldn't be changing any of the architectural features of the house. It would just be shifting it forward or backward on the lot. And they have
You said didn't you say you had 6 feet? Was that what I remember?
there's 6 feet between, it would shorten for sure the, oh, I'm going the wrong way, guys. The area between the house and the garage, but this structure here is sitting at to the 10 feet, which is the minimum front setback, and it could be moved all the way back to 35. That's going to adjust how the pool deck is configured. If it were to move back that far, and this tree right here we're trying to save, so you don't want to move it too far back, but there is a significant amount of space between the corner of this house and the corner of this structure, not like 15 feet, but this is 6 feet from here to here.
And we can't move it past the curb cut, which was defined, so we can't get it all the way to the garage, because.
No,
it
not all the way to
couldn't
the
get in our
garage, but it
driveway.
could move 6 feet or so from there.
And I think the discussion revolved, even with 6 feet, we wouldn't get it out of the porch. And
This
we
one
would
here?
lose the stairs. We would lose the stairs.
But if I may interrupt, I think that that's part of building in Old Town. I mean, on this lot, you have to conform around these trees. That just goes along with the territory. So if you have to adjust accordingly, then
And there's no, can I just ask this question? There's no wiggle room, doesn't look like, to move we'll say plan, or down, plan south
We've got about
at
a
all.
foot. We've got about a foot, and we'd be happy to do that. I mean, we can
All right.
put that right on the minimum setback. We can flex the building forward and backwards. I would be more apt to move the house around to try to save the 18-inch live oak, assuming that the town's not going to kill it with the stormwater project, than the 12-inch magnolia. I think we can, plant a couple nice oak trees in the, on the Bridge Street for street trees and get that tree canopy, or a couple new magnolias along there, whatever the preference would be. But I do like that 18-inch live oak. I'd love to save it. I'm just worried that powers beyond us are going to inhibit its survival, but we can try.
Jesse, is that going to allow you to make a motion with this discussion, or do you?
I believe so, yes.
Josh? And are we all good with moving forward to make a motion, or should we have further discussion?
I would also note, Jesse, that, item number 8 here is per the application's manual, approval of Town of Bluffton tree removal permit is required prior to issuance of this certificate of appropriateness. So I think that, putting verbiage in there denoting consideration of saving the 18-inch live oak by adjusting the layout is important, at least for me. But then I also, fall back on item number 8. And I would say, Mary, to your point, there's a huge importance of maintaining our existing canopy within Old Town. However, we do have an arborist report that, is a third-party document by a licensed professional that we do have to review. Now, I don't know if it's ever been asked to provide a second arborist report, and I'm not saying that we open that can of worms, but Mary, that would be the only other thing that I would, throw out there for possible consideration.
But what did the arborist report say? Did it say it was declining, or was that the magnolia?
The magnolia is not declining. The 18-inch live oak is not mentioned. It's not noted at all.
Then,
But yeah, and then the number 8, which is the 32-inch southern red oak, it's listed as the turkey oak behind the 12-inch magnolia. That one is as declining.
So do we have what qualifies as declining?
Basically, I guess
I'm going to use my words again. It's a thing I do. The certified arborist risk assessment form is what they use to make these determinations here. And this arborist, it's required for tree removal permits that if the arborist report comes in, it's not from the same person who is doing the tree removal. So in this case, Michael couldn't be the one with the chainsaw. Basically, the guy with the chainsaw can't be the one who says your tree needs to come out, because obviously there's a conflict of interest there. So
like a check and balance.
this is a third-party arborist. Josh, I hear what you're saying, and I know you didn't mean it in this, that this wouldn't be the second opinion, but
Michael's a professional. He's well known.
Right.
And it's more than declining. There are actually several noted trees that have massive decay and weak.
But we can't.
fire.
I'm not going to support something that's removing these trees based on that they're declining.
Right. So the 12-inch magnolia is not declining, and the 18-inch live oak is also not mentioned as declining. It's not mentioned as not declining, though. It's not mentioned at all.
So yeah,
This one's not referenced. This one's not declining. This one's dying.
That one's dying, or is that what that said?
Yeah, this one's declining in health.
Has massive decay is what the report says.
Well, I don't see the massive decay part, but
It's tree number 1 on the arborist report.
Massive decay and is declining right here.
okay, so that one does say that.
Yeah.
And that one, they're going to come back and request removal. Is that correct, Katie?
That's correct.
It is likely. I would assume that they would. There's not a tree removal permit yet, so I guess they could decide to save it, but it doesn't feel like the best choice.
Did you say for the 36-inch oak?
Yes, that one here. This is the one with massive decay. This one has no comment. This one is healthy.
Well, so those are 2 at the top of with those X's that are healthy and not mentioned. So I'm not going to vote. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not going to support it, removing those trees if they are fine or not mentioned.
We don't have a report on 18, so we'll certainly get the arborist to review the 18-inch live oak that's not defined yet.
So based on what Mary just said, Mary's determination on 1 would be that the structure should be moved to protect the 12-inch magnolia and the 18-inch live oak should the arborist report deem it healthy.
That's my understanding.
That's my understanding, yes. Mary, is that
Oh,
right?
yes, I'm sorry. That is correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
Katie, if I would just ask if we could, before we start talking about how people are going to vote, can we get a motion on the table? I think it's probably just
Yeah, I think that's
appropriate thing to do.
Yes.
Jesse, were you, or does somebody else want to make this motion? It's somewhat complex. Josh, I guess I'm just looking to see if anyone wants to start with the motion. And once the motion starts, they have to continue on, and no further discussion until it gets into the discussion point on motions.
Jesse, I'll tackle it if you.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't quite, for that type G window, I think that's probably best if you wouldn't mind tackling it. Sorry.
Sure, no worries. So
Thank
I would
you,
like
Josh.
to, yes, sir. I would like to make a motion that we approve the submitted application per staff recommendations, but also based on the following. Number one, consideration be given to save the Southern Magnolia, the 12-inch Southern Magnolia, upon review of the 18-inch live oak arborist report. If deemed that the 18-inch live oak can be saved, that in placement of the structure to accommodate the 18-inch live oak, consideration be given to also save the 12-inch Southern Magnolia. Item number two, per staff recommendation. Item number three, per staff recommendation. Item number four, if indeed the 36-inch is deemed above sidewalk and the current design meets the requirement, then approve as designed. Item number five, per staff recommendation. Item number six, approved pending additional submittal of window details and elevations showing muntins and alignment in keeping with surrounding fenestration, to be granted approval by staff or HP Historic Preservation Review Committee. Item number seven.
Else to make an amended motion since we were in discussion, and then we would go ahead and second that and then vote on that, and then have to come back to vote on the complete motion, if I understand. Is that right, Robert?
Yes,
Rules?
Mr. Chairman. So the amended motion, the motion to amend could be as simple as I move to amend item 6 to X. Then you would all vote on whether or not you're amending the motion, so yay or nay to amend. And then you would vote on the amended primary motion should it have passed, or the original motion.
So you have the chance to vote on either the amended motion or the original motion, is that correct?
If the amendment fails.
If the amendment failed, okay.
So I can, if the goal is to amend it, someone say that they're going to amend it. If it's not, then you can vote. But if the goal is to amend it, I can walk you through that process.
Mr. Chairman, can I offer to amend the motion?
I would, yes, thank you, Evan.
So Commissioner Goodwin will amend the motion.
So I
So,
would,
right,
yeah, I'd propose to amend the motion to include in item 6 about the type G windows, that we are proposing to approve it given the fact that the windows are not visible from any prominent street view on either Bridge Street or Pritchard Street. and that the windows give the appearance of 4 separate casement windows rather, excuse me, 4 separate casement windows rather than one large double bifold window.
Okay, so then there would be, would be the motion to amend. So you would need a second on that.
So I need a second on that. So therefore, who's, could
Mary,
I?
I'll second that.
Second. So then again,
And then
open
now you're going
discussion.
to,
Don't we still need to go into discussion?
Hmm?
So any further discussion on the amended motion? If not, we now need to vote on the amended motion.
nope, you're going to vote on whether you want to amend that motion. So you're going to vote on Evan's amendment first.
Okay, so
You're going to vote on Evan's amendment first.
let's, we're now voting for Evan's amendment. And I'm looking for a motion on that, correct?
Just a
No.
vote right now.
Just a vote.
Just a vote. Thank you. Thank you for the walkthrough. I know that we got taught by our attorney, but it's very
So
complex.
just a vote right now.
So we're just
Right.
going to be looking for a vote. So I'm looking for
Bruce?
Carrie. Yes, aye. Yes.
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Evan.
Aye.
Unanimous for the
Now you have an
Now-
amended
Now the
primary
amended,
motion.
so the
So you're
amended
going to
motion,
vote aye or nay on the amended primary motion.
so now we have a vote on the table and I'm looking for, I need a motion?
You need an aye or a nay to the amended primary motion.
Bruce,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Michael.
Michael's cell phone's been giving him trouble, so come back to him last.
okay, Josh,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
Michael,
So I guess what you can note is Michael's phone dropped, but it still looks like we have a
The
quorum
motion
and
passes.
the motion
Yep.
passes without Michael's vote. So I guess we
Correct.
just need to note that.
Yes, and we can
Yes.
do that. And he will probably be joining back in. Thank you.
Yes.
James, I will follow up with an approval letter for that tomorrow with those conditions attached to it.
So we're completely legal in regards to Robert's rules, and thank you for the walkthrough on that because it does get somewhat complex. And Mary, thank you, and Josh, thank you for proceeding and getting that accomplished. Kind of complex, so it's nice to see the board step forward. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
So
Michael is
Yes.
joining back in.
Hi,
Michael, just FYI, we voted, you had dropped off, but we were still able to vote, and the amended motion was approved.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now it looks like we still, well, we're at 9:10, so just FYI, we have 3 more items to go through, and we have until 9:30. Otherwise.
Done by 9:30.
Okay, so I'm just stating that because otherwise it gets either voted on or put into another meeting. So here we go. And it looks like, Katie, you're done for this time except for sitting back and watching. And it looks like Glenn, you're up.
Right.
Stephen has joined the meeting, Glenn.
Perfect.
Stephen,
Or he's getting there, connecting to audio.
okay. And if Stephen, once he's in, could introduce himself, he's not connected yet. So yeah, Katie, you know, it's interesting. We didn't have a meeting last month, so I guess we're making up for it. But thanks for all sticking in and getting this done. Stephen, are you there?
It still says connecting.
Stephen is the owner of the property. I'm just going to keep going, and when he gets connected, he can introduce himself for sake of time. So this is a request for a site feature HD permit to allow the installation of a TPO roof on a portion of the contributing resource known as the Planters Mercantile at 20 Calhoun Street. The reason why we're bringing this for you tonight is TPO is not an approved material for roofing under the UDO. So staff cannot sign off on it. So we're bringing it to the full HPC board to sign off on that. If you don't know the property, this is it. It's in Neighborhood Center HD. Photograph of the building from 2 months ago. This is the section in green of the roof that's going to be replaced. It's a flat or near flat roof over the porch. The existing shingles on the main part of the building are remaining, so we're just talking about that small green area. Here's a view looking east of that black grayish tarp material that's going to be replaced with the TPO. And another vision of that. So under the UDO, you can make HPO can approve as substitute materials, and also under section 2.2.6.E2, you can determine the appropriateness of the use of the TPO material as submitted by the applicant. In the documents, they referenced a white material. The TPO also comes in different colors. That's your discretion if you want to recommend a different color. Black is just what's up there right now. You will not see it from the street.
But Glenn, you'd have to have a helicopter in order to see any of this, though, correct?
That's exactly correct. So town staff is requesting a determination from HPC regarding the appropriateness of using the TPO material on the porch, which according to the staff report will be acceptable for us as a substitute material. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Everything is pretty well outlined in the staff report.
Just again, a question is if they said that they were using a white material, which is actually sustainable, and that's the way that the green folks want to do because it has the better rather than absorption. But in regards to material being visible, the only way it's visible is if you had a helicopter or a drone.
That's right. So if there's no questions, I'm going to propose the following motion. You may insert color into that where it says red. You can pick black, white. It makes no difference, and you need not do that. But here's the motion for you.
So typically we're not doing color on this. It's showing up, but in the opinion of mine, color isn't required, and in fact, as far as being sustainable, white would be the better choice. But there are not any lips, there's not any overlap, there's not any chance for this thing to be popping out, right?
That's right.
Okay. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion, unless there's further discussion. Jesse?
Do we have a staff recommendation, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it's right there. The motion.
We're recommending approval.
You're recommending approval, so yes.
So the only question I would have, and you just alluded to this, Mr. Chairman, is there any trim? Is there any drip cap? Is there any component that's going to fall down onto the fascia that would be visible?
Not that we've seen.
Can we go back to the photographs, please? I'm trying to. If we go to
preview, the portion that's going to be replaced, current condition, this is actually facing east. That's Pritchard Street right in front of you.
So basically the best choice probably would be black, just because if we have the ability to choose color, that way there's probably no concern about that.
Right, and I don't believe the owner is really concerned about the color. It's more the material. This will make the building watertight.
Okay, very good. So
which will make the Secretary of Interior happy with their guidelines.
I'm certainly not saying that it's not the best suited material for this application. My only concern is the fascia board and how the TPO comes down onto the fascia board as it's currently seen. If we go to,
Is this a form of TPO that they have now? I mean, it's a flat roof and it looks like it's something
Yes.
similar.
Yes,
So this is just replacing of an existing similar product, if I understand.
that's right.
Okay.
but if we look at, there we go. So if we zoom in, the fascia board is deteriorating.
That's right.
It is in need of repair.
Right. And the owner has plans to do that.
I'm not making the motion, but I would suggest or consider making a motion to grant approval contingent on HPRC or staff having an opportunity to review a cut section of the fascia and how that drip detail is seen, because it will wrap down, and whatever coloration is utilized for the roof and whatever trim material is utilized for that drip, it will be visible and it will have a commercial aesthetic, which is traditionally where you see these TPO roofs. And that's an important structure, especially given the fact that this soffit of this historic contributing structure over top of the balance of that residence, not including the screen porch, is also in need of repair. So when that happens, we want to make sure, in my opinion, that we are guiding the caretaker and the steward of this residence into building a soffit and a detail that is going to transition onto the rest of this structure in a positive way.
That's right. That's our intention.
But it needs to be said in the motion. So with any further discussion, I'm trying to push this along just because we're running out of time. And I apologize.
Happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
That would be wonderful, please.
Could we please go back to the format that was provided to us? Let's see here. Okay. I move to approve with conditions the site feature permit HD to allow the installation of a black TPO roof on a portion of the Planters Mercantile Building at Calhoun Street, contingent on staff or HPRC approval of an owner or submitter.
Did anyone else hear that, or was that just my computer?
No. I lost you after contingent.
Yeah, unfortunately, it faded away.
All right, let's try it again.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, so I'm going to pick back up at contingent on the applicant providing a cut section showing the actual TPO transition to a termination drip on the proposed new fascia board.
Very good. Katie and Glenn, do you have that? Does that make sense?
I do.
Okay, so therefore we have a motion on the table. I'm looking for a second, please.
Mary, I'll second that.
Mary, thank you. Any further discussion on this? No further discussion. I'm looking for a vote. Carrie?
Bruce,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Evan.
Aye.
Very good. On to the next item, and
Thank
that's
you. And Stephen, I'll follow up with you later this week.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Kim is already, well, she was.
so the next
Yeah,
item is
drop
item number 6, and we have Glenn once again.
Yep,
This item is going to require us to make 2 separate motions.
That's right.
My understanding. So as we go through this, we have to have a first motion to, Glenn, help me out with the terminology.
I have the motions already for you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So we have tonight an opportunity to, this is the first of two potential new designation of new contributing resources to the historic district. So the applicant in this case is the town of Bluffton, is requesting that the HPC will make a recommendation to town council to designate the Jenny Kitty Municipal Building, 1261 May River Road, as a new contributing resource to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. As I outlined in my staff report, this is the location of the building on May River Road. This is the zoning map. This is the current contributing resources map, not showing the proposed resource, but showing how it is adopted as of December 2021. Current conditions of the building. The building is being proposed as a new contributing resource because it meets criteria for not only its architectural style, being the international style, one of two extant commercial structures in the town of Bluffton in this architectural style, but also for its association with Jenny Kitty, the Bluffton midwife who long-term Bluftonians know very well, and for now who the building is named. It was officially named in her honor in September 2021. Under the section 3.25.3, HPC can look at 4 new criteria for designated contributing resource. In this case, it checks 2 boxes, one for style of architecture and one for its association with an important person in Bluffton. And under section 2.2.6.E4, you are authorized to review and recommend to town council resources to be designated as contributing resources to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. As I outlined in my staff report, based on that criteria, it meets these criteria to be listed. Are there any questions before I present a motion to you?
It looks like we're just going through the opportunity to make sure that this is preserved and somebody doesn't do anything like decide to paint it white or do something in the future.
That's right.
By having this designation. So it looks like this is a good move for us to preserve such a wonderful building.
Yes, once it becomes designated, it falls under HPC purview for any future alterations.
Okay. Makes sense to all? Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, moving forward to motions. You're going to be making 2 motions. The first motion, you're going to move to approve or approve with conditions or deny that you recommended town council to designate. The second motion, you're going to move or not move to have town council amend the contributing resources map, which is the official list of all contributing resources to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District.
So what this has to do is by us making our motions in our approval, it then goes to town council and then they have to then again approve this for designation because we don't have the ability to. They're just looking. Right. They're just looking for us for guidance.
To town council.
So
I'm asking you to recommend to town council.
So they're looking for us for guidance if we, as HPC, would approve that.
That's right.
Approve this. Okay. So therefore, I guess in the motion, if it's basically read as is or just stated as motion 1, we have to go through the approval on that, and then we go directly back into motion 2 and the same thing. So we don't necessarily have to have the same person making the motions, but we do need to have these motions made. So I'm looking for a motion for motion item number 1.
Mary, I'll make a motion since it's laid out so nicely or easily. I make a motion to approve what's recommended, or to approve and recommend to town council that the Bluffton Health Center be designated a new contributing resource to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District pursuant to section 3.25.4 of the Unified Development Ordinance.
We have a motion on the table. I'm looking for a second.
A second, Jesse.
Mike.
Jesse, I have a second from Jesse. Is that correct? Any further discussion on this? If not, looking for a vote. Carrie?
Bruce,
Aye?
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
Josh,
Josh, are you there? Josh may have stepped away. Let's see,
Jesse?
Aye.
it looks like we have a quorum and we have a vote, and Jesse unfortunately just stepped away. His computer was having a little bit of problem, so there may be something there. So I think, Glenn,
Aye.
we have enough. Are you there, Josh?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay, very good. Okay, so
Unanimous.
we have unanimous. Okay, motion passed. Now I'm looking for,
Aye.
we have unanimous, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Now we're looking at motion number 2 of the same product, the same location, the same address. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve recommendation that town council amend and adopt the contributing resources map pursuant to section 3.25.4 of the UDO.
We have a motion on the table, so I'm looking for a second.
Mary, I'll second it.
Further discussion, do we need to just question, do we need to state the address, or is this appropriate? Do we have to have the,
This is actually suffices.
this suffices? Okay, just wanted to make sure that it suffices. So with any further discussion. I'm looking for a vote. Carrie?
Bruce,
Aye?
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Evan.
Aye.
Unanimous vote, so it moves on to town council, and that is that item, Glenn. I believe that's completed. So
Right.
now we have our last item for the evening.
Right, so this is,
Excuse me, what did you say? Katie, did you
For
say something?
the applicants coming in.
Okay, we're at 9:26. We have 4 minutes. I hate to cut things short, but we kind of ran into some
That's
things.
perfect timing.
Let's get this done. Do we have the applicants?
Yes, they're on.
Are they on? Hello, applicant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so you're the last item and you're cutting it really close.
I had a
Hey,
feeling.
Glenn, I'm gonna have to recuse myself. I apologize.
okay,
We still have we still will have a quorum,
Yes.
and that's good. So we're still in good shape. All
Mr.
right?
Chair,
Yes.
I also need to recuse myself.
Okay, so do we still have a quorum? We still have a quorum, and we have 2 people that recuse themselves. And Josh, I see you put yourself on mute and your video is off, so that's good. So with the remaining members, we still have a quorum to go ahead and proceed forward. Glenn, go ahead.
all right. So this is the same thing, a new potential contributing resource. This is number 41 Bridge Street, which is the former post office building, from Town Hall. This is the location, again, zoning map. You've seen the contributing resources map before. This is the structure we're talking about. It's 1964 to 1965. The design was actually a standard design by the United States Postal Department. Here's an image from the building design catalog from 1959, as I referenced in my staff report.
Green, Glenn.
Sorry. Let's see if I can find out why.
What did you say, Katie? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So we couldn't see his share, but he's got it up now.
Okay, thank you.
This is the wrong PowerPoint.
So just FYI, this is the property that we approved, was it last or 2 months ago for
Yes.
renovation? And we went ahead and approved that for renovation, and they're staying within the HPC for that. So I believe the building will be a wonderful contribution to our community.
Right. So for some reason, I can't share my screen now. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did.
Katie, is there any way that you have this material and could you share your screen, or do you, or is that
Everything is
possible?
actually in the staff report. So you've seen everything already.
Go ahead, Glenn. Do we need to see this material? Katie, do you need to bring it up? Or where are we at with this? Would it be best to
I'm working on it, but Glenn can keep going with his presentation while I see if I can get it pulled up for him.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Go ahead, Glenn.
Really, it's the criteria we're using here is the style of architecture. So again, this is the international style. This was the second commercial structure built in Bluffton in that style of architecture. It's also a red brick building over a concrete block core, which is not typical of low country architecture. So it ticks the boxes for architectural style. It's also the first purpose-built post office for the town of Bluffton in 1965. Everything else, all the attachments and everything is already in the staff report. And again, I'm not sure why my computer is not behaving itself tonight. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have before we get a motion.
Just FYI, for memory purposes, we did approve this, like I said, I think 2 months ago. So I think we have a pretty good memory of the address. There we go, Katie, thank you. Is that you?
So all these images are actually from the staff report.
And so therefore on this, we're also going to be looking for two different motions.
There's two different motions just like before.
Is it possible to bring up the motions from the previous project, or Katie, I don't know if you have those two motions, but changing the address and changing the property number.
You can just use the same motions. You don't have to address the property.
It doesn't have to be addressed specifically?
No.
It seems like it would just be good if we mentioned the location.
Yeah, you may do that.
Yeah. So if someone is any further discussion on this? It looks like, again, this would be helpful in contributing it so they don't end up painting it white or something, some next owner decides to do something. It's going to maintain its character that I think they did a wonderful job on preserving in the HPC that was presented to us 2 months ago. With that being said, if somebody's willing to make a motion, I guess I would just prefer a mention of the property in some manner, and the name of the property is, or address is 41 Bridge Street. 41 Bridge Street. Who's willing to make a motion for the first motion? You have the ability to, there it is, thank you.
Mary, I'll make a motion. I move to approve per the town's recommendation to town council that the Bluffton, or excuse me, what are we calling that?
41 Bridge Street?
41
Bridge Street.
Bridge Street be designated a new contributing resource to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District pursuant to section 3.25.4 of the Unified Development Ordinance.
We have a motion on the table. I'm looking for a second.
Jesse, a second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'm looking for a vote. Carrie?
Bruce?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote. Is that correct, Katie and Carrie? Thank you. So now I am also looking for a motion number 2. And again, I would have appreciated if the address was just mentioned. Who wants to make a motion number 2?
I'll make it. Jesse, I move to approve the recommendation that town council amend and adopt the contributing resources map pursuant to section 3.25.4 of the UDO for 41 Bridge Street.
We have a motion on the table. I'm looking for a second.
Mary, I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussions? If no further discussions, we're up for a vote. Carrie?
Bruce,
Aye? Vote? Yes.
Mary,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Jesse.
Aye.
And makes it a unanimous vote. So therefore that passes, and in the future, no one's going to be painting that building or destroying it once we're long and gone and the building's still sitting there in 50 years and it's going to stay intact. So that's very good. I think that's wonderful for the community.
Right. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yep. Hey, thank you guys. And now I'm looking for a motion to be made to adjourn. And I think we could have Josh come back and Evan come back if you are still there. And it looks like Josh decided to have lunch or late dinner.
You can't see that. You're not supposed to see that.
Well, I think that's a grand idea. So now I'm looking for a motion to close the meeting. And also, thanks, Rusty, for that dog. I like it. Picture of the dog.
I figured it was a long meeting. You needed a little release.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. My dog just went bananas about that. Mary, I'll make a motion to close the meeting or adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting. I'm looking for a second.
Josh, second.
Any further discussion? I'm looking for a vote on that. Bruce, aye?
Mary, aye.
Mike, aye.
Jesse, aye.
Evan, aye.
Josh, aye.
Looks like we're unanimous in that vote too. So
We are adjourned.
hey, you all, I think we had a long meeting tonight. We did a good job. We had some very good discussions. I think the commission is working great. They bring in some excellent points, and I'm proud to be associated with this group. So thanks, guys.
Perfect. And thank you, Debbie and Rusty, for all the energy you're putting into saving these historic structures on the prominent corner there.
Oh, I mean,
Thank you, guys.
it's just spectacular what you guys are doing. I think, and I still think that, I know that it was mentioned, and this is off because we're off, but